Consume, enhance, replicate.
That was sound. There we go.
Oh, the dog's just farting. Jeez.
Well, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I can hear myself. I don't know. Guys, you want to see my new toy?
I mean,
It's a word board.
Consume, enhance, replicate.
Hold, please.
No,
I
not
just
yet.
I just heard myself come through the stream.
Yeah, they can hear me, but they can't hear.
Just heard myself.
Okay. Hmm? I don't know.
This. Okay, so now it's piggybacking. Okay, all right.
There you are. I don't know what you're about to do.
Now they can hear three voices. Black Flag, I hear nothing. You're a liar.
I'm curious. My audio is so much louder than Rick's.
Test. Okay, so there, voice meter aux output.
It does the same exact thing on our show. I have no idea why.
It's because, yep, here, I figured it out. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
This is stupid as fuck. All right, there it is.
Prove it.
So with Streamlabs Audio, if you go into the audio, I have too many goddamn digital audio mixers at this point.
Perfect.
So if you go into Streamlabs Audio under the mixer part, yeah, I see you, Greg. If you go to the desktop audio, it only picks up certain channels from voice meter, which is stupid because it should just give me. I just want an audio input signal, but I had to go into the mic auxiliary audio, and that is picking up both our channels. Let me double check here.
That's
Not what it is. What the hell is that? What channel is that?
Like I'm in a mech suit. Excellent.
Hey guys, want to see something kind of cool?
Boop?
If you
That
just showed up
probably
in chat.
I don't know what the fuck channel it's pulling now. So I guess mics are going to be live permanently until I figure this shit out.
Oh, the Petra faces.
All of the mics.
All the mics.
Just put everything on 11. It's fine.
Well, I don't
No.
understand. Cable output. Oh, wait. That might be it. So hang on real quick. Let me try this. Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. God damn it. Why the fuck? Oh yeah, that was a really cool one. Okay, that's just the mic. Yeah, I put them that way.
I think this was a missed opportunity.
I mean, hey, Neo. All the new things. Wow, that's a lot of paint. Pride paint.
Why this is. Okay, so now that's picking up my mic. Green, can you say something?
Can I say something? I can say something.
Okay. So now everyone should hear that. However, I don't know where that is coming from, so I don't know.
It is magic.
Why is it muting there but not?
Yay, black
now
flag.
now it's allowing me. I don't fucking know.
Yep.
So much spins. I just looked down at my screen as it's just like, blah! I'm like, all right, cool.
Okay.
All right.
So, you ready for Audacity? So we can get the show on the road?
Yeah, hang on. Give me 2 seconds. Oh.
It's
whoa.
a squid.
It's Cthulhu.
That
Cthulhu
moved.
is not a squid.
I mean, he's got a squid face.
Sort of. So does
Listen,
Davy Jones, according
I don't-
to
I don't
Pirates of the
question your
Caribbean.
God.
I would have to have a god for you to question first, but sure.
I don't question your religion.
I don't question your fucking beliefs. What you talking about? Rick is a little low.
What else is new?
Okay.
I mean, you are short.
Listen, we're all born with the same amount of hormones. If
I
some
mean-
dude wants to waste his by getting tall, that's fine.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
I love Green's like, hang on. Wait, what?
Oh, shit. Says the short girl. Hey, it's We actually had a conversation about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks, Rick and I did, where we were talking about how we've never dated shorter. And it started with Rick saying it, which makes more sense. But then I thought about it. It's like, yeah, I've never dated anybody shorter either, because I know about 3 people who are shorter.
The little people.
Little people.
Not a
More
whole lot of leprechauns in Kansas.
Vince is trying to secure his place on the stream boss.
I see
When am I
that.
starting Audacity?
I have Audacity.
So I'm waiting. You ready?
Yes.
Doing this countdown. We'll click when I say click. So we got 3, 2, 1, click.
Cool.
Okay.
Huzzah. And then
Okay.
all.
Okay.
Let me know when you ready? Do the
Yes.
let's do this.
Let's see if this is going to cooperate as well. Nope, I need to be on the right one. I'm getting there.
Profanities in German. Yes.
I don't actually think I know any profanities in German.
I will teach you. It's fine.
Yay.
The first one we're going to learn is Scheißkampf.
Oh, Scheiße. I know that one.
Well, this is Scheißkampf.
Scheißkampf.
Scheißkampf is shithead.
Ah. Scheiße is shit. I know that. Nope, no alcohol. Nope, there's no alcohol this time. It's
Yay,
coffee
stream- okay,
and
so I
water.
don't know why that. Okay, whatever. All right, you good?
Mm-hmm.
Trouble in it.
All right. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 10th, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the new information we've gained concerning the Nine. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the currently planning how I'm going to pop into frame from week to week, Green-Eyed Music Lover. Because we have face cams now.
And last but definitely not the least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Man at Arms. Rick, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I didn't even know I was going to be here. I was just sitting on my computer and the voices came through. So I guess we're doing this. It's fine.
My question is why do you have our channel like loaded up constantly on your Discord?
I don't know how to work Discord. I'm not really sure if you're aware of this.
Okay.
We have a Discord channel for the podcast. I've never been in there.
I've never been in there.
You know, it's something that's always made me wonder, like, why you create a new chat room every week for your show. Because every time I've joined up, you've made a brand new chat room every time.
That is correct.
It is accurate. And anybody who's been a guest on his show can attest to this. It's great. His show, by the way, Destiny Unfiltered. Go and watch Tuesday nights, right?
It's Tuesday nights at 9. It is a show.
It is a show.
I don't know what kind of show it is anymore. I mean, theoretically, it's about Destiny.
Isn't that the one where I think Log did a similar one with the DDU where he was like he showed the meme of the guy talking and laughing. He's like, yeah, listen, we'll do a Destiny Down Under podcast, but we'll never get around to talking about Destiny.
Yeah, basically.
Basically.
Okay, so here's my question. Since we're kind of just tumbling right into the way the show's going this week, we're not doing normal questions because you've been here enough. People know you.
We delete these.
We don't need those. But you know what we do need? What are your feelings, good sir, about this current season and the changes in Destiny?
I've played twice. The only thing I'm really doing right now is following the story and
Mhm.
keeping up with the activities vicariously. Because I've legitimately had time to play twice so far this season. So there's not a whole lot of. I do not like the having to go and regrind weapons that I already have. I think it's silly.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it is, but it isn't. I get why they're doing it. It's to help rotate the sandbox, right? Like that's the main purpose is to make it to where they're not having to create new guns all the time. And they can focus on like a few new guns like Wither Horde and what's the one that dropped Tuesday, Blue, that you and I've been using and having so much fun with?
ruinous.
The
Oh, Ruinous Effigy?
yes. That gun that shit does work.
I don't even care if it does work. It's just fun to use.
It's so much fun and like it's fun in PvE, but it's also fun in PvP. I've seen a few people use it in PvP and they've
Oh, really?
been able to wreck with it. I
mean,
don't
I get. I
know
mean, that
how
makes
the
sense.
utility is not as usable in PvP just because you're not running through hordes of people with
Yeah.
the area of effect thing on, but
Right. I can't
it's
figure
it's
out
Maybe.
the
it's a lot of fun.
shield, the
It's
bubble
not a
shield.
shield.
What is it? That's
Cole
that's what I
spoke.
was trying to figure out.
It's like the bubble of what a Titan can do, right? Like it's a full circle around you, but it's basically void that you have pushed out outside of yourself and you are damaging in an area of effect. So you can run through a group of
Okay, that
thrall
makes
or
more sense.
acolytes and it'll do damage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think so. You haven't really played much of this season, Rick. Is there anything in the story that's got you excited that you've been kind of keeping up with?
I was well. I'm just time poor,
Mm-hmm.
so I was very much looking forward to doing the dungeon because I like tonight's topic, but
Yes.
it has not worked out for me. But yeah,
Mm,
I was looking forward to it before the season even started, and it was just like, and then life changed, and it's like you have no time to play a role playing game. Well,
yeah. You know, we'll get you through it. I've actually hopped over to Xbox a few times to help Blue with it, and we almost got Blue and Pins through. And Orchid, I know, has helped us a bit too. So
Yeah, we've actually
it'll
gotten up to
happen.
the final boss, and like I think it's just a matter of us just polishing. To be honest, I mean, damage output it's an interesting thing. Like, it's definitely I like the dungeon because it's definitely it's it's pretty balanced as far as like you need to be able to put out damage as much as you can understand what's going on around you, but it actually does seem to lean just a little bit more towards the puzzle side, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
it really honestly it gives me the same sense that I got with Vault in that sense of like it's balanced but it's just a little bit not fully balanced, but it's balanced like unbalanced in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pins.
and
Pins
Pins
had a
Pins has Pins has an amazing luck at jumping to the platform that the bosses spawn to.
spoiler. He goes to the same platforms every time.
Don't tell him that.
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You never
Okay.
know; it could change. It could be different.
It could. It theoretically could.
It's a gift.
It's okay, Pins. We love you. All right. So, Blue, we have some just special announcements that you should
Yeah,
make before we get into the actual
Jesus,
topic.
we have quite a number of special announcements. Well, first off, those in live chat, if you're not in live chat, if you're listening to this on podcast, I encourage you, especially now, to come swing by Friday nights at 10 p.m. Central. We just updated our layout, and hopefully it will continue to work. I'm going to knock on wood because that it literally we just completely rehauled it. And one of the big reasons that we kind of got one of the catalysts for that updating, we also updated our header banners on Twitter because we have now Focus Fire Chat. The podcast has now basically joined the robots Radio Alliance or Robots Radio Network. Gosh, man, eventually I will get this down. And it really is a joining of our group with another network that is very focused on what they've kind of called like interesting shows. And they all really focus around lore in various different games. So they have a really big presence in Fallout and in Elder Scrolls, and then they just started up a Sea of Thieves podcast.
Group.
There's a D&D, which is really cool. They have I think it's one of their Skyrim ones. They either are affiliated with or they have the Skyrim podcast that actually sits down and reads the books from the game. That's actually how I found them. And they are also teamed up with the Destiny Show podcast, which you guys might be familiar with if you're listening to us.
Cornholio has joined us before on the show.
Yep. And so it's really a kind of a merging of something that I think really makes sense. So we're going to be what that means for people. I know a couple people have asked me, and let me pull up my responses to them, because I know a lot of people ask, okay, well, what does that mean for Focus Fire? Really, it doesn't really mean anything for you guys. The only big differences that the podcast listeners are going to have is that we are going to start putting in through the show basically breaks, and then we're going to play, usually it's about a 30-second clip from the other podcasts in the network. And so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to raise awareness and help raise awareness of other podcasts and kind of help build on their community with our own community. And they're going to do the same with us. And, it's just that it's, again, collaboration between the groups. That's really, honestly, the only major change. Now, eventually, maybe we will starting doing like affiliate links, but that's going to be all on the website. It won't be in the podcast itself, or if it is, it's going to be at the very beginning or at the very end. I'm not gonna probably put that in the middle. The middle breaks are going to be really to kind of promote the other podcast on the network. Other than that, that's really the change that you guys, and if you're in the live stream, you're probably not even going to you're not even going to hear the interrupted, because I'm going to put them in for the audio files itself. So, that's really for those people listening. That's going to be the big difference. For those who watch the Lore Network site, what we're going to do is I'm going to start talking to the other lore podcasts that are on Robots Radio, and I'm going to start seeing if they would be comfortable with us sharing their content with our weekly lore roundups that we put out now twice a week, because we do a YouTube version and a podcast version. So the podcast versions that come out on Wednesday might start getting a little bit more bulky, because we're actually going to have different content coming out on them. I need to sit down when I have a free moment and try to figure out if there's a way to set up a email distribution for that, because I know that might be an easier way to do it. But I haven't had a chance to do that just yet. But please let us know thoughts on those weekly lore roundups. We've been doing them for about 3 or 4 weeks at this point. And we've gotten really positive reviews back. I know a lot of I think Kaz and Smarts, they're working on something that I'm hoping we're going to be able to get you guys aware of. They were talking about something earlier today, so I'm really excited to see where that goes. And then also just, that's really it. If you guys haven't already, please, as always, leave us a review over on iTunes. I'm just going to put that in there. It's not necessary. It's just appreciated because it lets us know, what we can do better. We are going to try to make some slight structural changes, like I said, with the Robots Radio Network change. But really, honestly, I'm trying to keep the changes as minimal as possible for the end result audio files. So, yeah, that's the big thing that's happened this week. It feels like it's been a lot longer, but I think it has been just literally this week.
Mm-hmm. It's been a quick turnaround. They've been really helpful and so far just really good to work with. So, you ready to do the cocktail knowledge real quick before we take our first commercial break? Because that's about the amount of time we have. For
Yeah, and I
our
mean, I
first
think we
commercial
can.
break.
I think we can fit the cocktail knowledge of. We have no clue. I love the comment that you put in here. So yes,
Yeah,
I will defer to you on that.
In our show notes, we have the who, what, where, when, and why of each topic that we're going over, just to kind of give people who have never played Destiny or are just coming to Destiny right now and a little bit of like history or cocktail knowledge. So if you're ever at Guardian Con and you want to have a conversation with somebody who may know a little bit more about lore, you'll have at least a tiny bit to hook onto before they run off on the deep end and the rabbit hole just takes off. So who are the 9? No idea.
Nope.
No clue. There is a card back in D1 that talks about the possibilities of what the 9 are or who the 9 are, but there's no conclusive evidence yet. Where they're at, currently they're in our solar system, hence the fact that they're in our game at this point. But they have their hands, tentacles, whatever we're going to call them. We don't even know what they look like. We know that they have little minions, essentially. Zur is part of their grouping, and so is Orin, or at least Orin was. Spoiler alert on that one. The amount of people that are involved with the 9 are quite a few. Mara has had dealings with them because she has dealt with Orin directly, and there are a few other characters who have been around the 9 quite a bit, like Drifter. The reason why Drifter even has the Gambit available for us to play is because of the 9 giving him the Hall. Beyond that, we don't know much about them, but we know that they know a lot about everything else going on and that they have some powers that we don't necessarily understand. They set Skolas free back in D1, and they've kind of meddled in our lives since then with various aspects. You say that's fair, Blue?
Yes, I would.
So, you ready for our first commercial break? Trying to do your laugh, it doesn't work.
Oh.
And resetting. This is what you cut out. And we're back.
Why was Green panting?
Because Green has a camera on her, and she becomes very strange when that happens. So, Blue. Man-at-Arms.
Okay.
The 9. You guys are up. How are we going to talk about this? We're going to talk about the coda set.
I think the coda set is more of. I don't think the the coda set itself, I will say, has an amazing amount of information about the 9, but it doesn't really answer the question of what the 9 are. I think that it is very important in. It's like it. I'm trying to think of the best example. It's like. It would be like saying, "Hey, what's a human being?" and then being like, "Well, a human being thinks about this stuff." It's like, okay, yeah, but what is a human being? Like, the coda set shows how the 9 answer queries given to them and how they process information for sure. It doesn't answer the question of what they are. To do that, we get hints. We have a lot of like. The Dust and Ecdysis books, which were released a couple seasons back, have probably more information for that piece. Yeah.
Here,
but,
while you're looking for that, I want to know what Rick thinks the 9R
no.
as well.
Okay, so it's very simple.
Is it?
Yes, I have to go back to something from Dungeons and Dragons. There was an enemy in Dungeons and Dragons called the Chaos Beast.
No.
Yes. So it could literally be anything, including the person standing next to you. Because it didn't matter what they were.
Beast. Okay.
The Chaos Beast
so,
could be anything and nothing. So it's basically, the way I see the 9 is it's a confirmation that there's an extra planar existence in the Destiny universe, which is kind of obvious.
Yeah, they're like more powerful mimics, basically.
But their laws of physics are not ours.
Non-existent. Yeah,
no, not at all.
Completely
no.
different.
I mean, the Chaos Beast laws of existence are completely not ours.
Right.
Exactly.
But-
so the 9 are like the chaos. So I just go back to that old lore card where it said the 9 were everything.
Right, the ghost fragments, yeah.
Well, there you go. They could technically be anything they wanted, but not in our plane of existence, only in their own.
But
Right,
in
yeah.
the card that you're talking about, Blue has it up on screen for the Ghost Fragment Legends 2. They're being referenced as things within our own system. It's not necessarily like they could be whatever they want in this card. They're just being referenced as everything and anything, which is also weird.
But who wrote this?
I still hold that this card is a gather information check results.
Well, I mean, it would be the same as like you take a 5-year-old and say, okay, explain the sun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Big glowing ball in the sky.
Right.
Done. So I've never put too much credence to this because, one, it's Bungie and they don't like to tell us anything specifically at all. So I just made up my own theories because I do that. If you leave me an open-ended question, I'm going to fill in the blank, and it's your fault. Whatever comes out, it's fine.
Sure. I don't know. Do you think that the 9 are tied to the beings that were trying to come through the gate back in the day? Like, Blue, do you remember that card?
Is that the ooze cone?
Is it the Cocytus? Yeah, the Cocytus gate thing. I think that's
Cocytus, yeah.
I thought that was them experimenting, trying to cross over to our plane.
right.
And the goop monsters were the byproduct of, well, like we had said initially, the laws of physics of their universe aren't the same as ours. So they're trying to
Sure.
figure out how to exist in ours, which that's been
Sure.
a running theme in a lot of the little lore tidbits you've been reading about lately.
Mm-hmm.
Is they
The thing
want to come here.
The thing I find interesting is that we talked about the dungeon a tiny bit and how you haven't played it yet, but within the dungeon, the whole point of the dungeon is the 9 answering our question of what is light and what is dark. And the dungeon is just a beautiful example of what their answer is because they're just showing it to us, right? They're having us do these things over and over again to teach us those aspects and what it actually means.
You can especially see it in the armor set because the armor set has the armor set has 3 different answers, and the thing is the 3 answers are actually one answer because we ask them what is the darkness, which is an extremely open-ended question, and basically Ghost says, Ghost has a response. He's like, oh no, you asked them this question, and their answer, they created an ontological space to answer you because the 9 don't communicate in normal parlance with us. We had the box of sand that we got from Venus. We had the emissary. We have dessert. Like all these different things. The 9 don't come up and be like, all right, well, let's sit down and we'll talk about this. That's not how they operate. They operate in what makes sense to them, and they don't exist in a realm where words really work. And so they're going to show us, like Green's saying, but the armor does such a beautiful job in showing exactly what they're doing. Is they're not just answering, they're actually teaching us not only what the darkness is, but what the light is, and why it's important that we don't just choose one. Trying not to play my hand too much there. But the answer that the 9 give is they use it as a springboard to move into a teaching moment for the Guardians that I think is actually really beautifully put with the like information that we get from the armor set.
Absolutely. Is there a specific thing within the armor set that you remember being more, I don't know, clear than the other?
Well, so first, I mean, so like as a big introduction to the armor set, everyone should recognize that there is a very common theme here. I'll pull it up on screen, and it makes actually searching them in Ishtar really, really easy because it's coda. So you have 3 different sets of armor, as we've all come to expect, one for each class. You have the crushing armor set, which is the Titan armor set. You have the channeling armor set, which is the Warlock armor set, and then you have the flowing armor set, which is the Hunters. Now, every single piece of armor has, crushing guard, mark judgment, blah, 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 and then at the end, it has in parentheses the word coda. Coda is usually used, well, there's 2 really big things that you see it in. First off, you see it often in literary or drama as a concluding piece. The other thing that you can see it in is musical selections or musical sections. It's actually the concluding section that is very formally distinct from the main structure. And so coda is usually a term that is used to explain something that serves to like round out or to conclude or summarize, but it is also something that has its own interest. It's not just this is what I told you. It's also, this is what I told you and this is why I told you it. And so when you read it like that, the armor set is summarizing what we experience through the dungeon, but it's also drawing those points together and trying to teach something there. So, and I kind of mentioned the Ghost kind of describes the whole experience of the dungeon as an ontological effect. Basically, what that means is they are answering it by creating something that makes that we're experiencing. You find when you're teaching somebody that if you make them do it, you make them actually do something, they're going to learn it better than if you just tell them, hey, this is what this is. If I have, and as a tactile learner, this makes tons of sense. I know maybe for a verbal or an auditory learner, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but like with math, if whenever we were in grade school, back when I was in grade school, we'd have like the M&Ms when we were talking about addition or subtraction.
Back in my day.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if they're allowed to have candy in school anymore.
There is no more school. It's over.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
This is true.
Yeah,
COVID.
Gosh. No, that's not true. We got our school supply list tonight. I'm so excited. Yeah.
You sound it.
Oh, gosh.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. But like when they would teach us math, like in I think it was like first grade, they were like, all right, so you have 2 M&Ms and you have 2 M&Ms. If you put them together, how many M&Ms do you have? That to me always made more sense than sitting at a desk and being like 2 plus 2, like the abstract letter 2 and an abstract figure of 2 equals another abstract figure of 4. That doesn't make any sense. My brain was not able to process that. But as soon as you made it real, as soon as I was able to touch it and maneuver like around and like actually see what that meant, perfect sense. I immediately was able to latch on and understand that concept. That's what's happening with the Prophecy Dungeon. We asked a question, so it's us going up to the teacher and being like, hey, what does this mean? And instead of basically just being like, well, here's the definition in a dictionary, they say, here, this is what we're going to show you. And they show us basically 3 different realities. They show us a reality that is dominated solely by light, which is represented within the flowing armor set. They show us a reality that is dominated solely by darkness, which is shown in the crushing armor set for the Titans. And then they show us a third option. And I kind of refer to this as the reality of shadows. And this is the channeling armor set. And this is where you really see the 9 not just address what is being asked, but actually points to the potential of not just a guardian, but the pairing of a guardian and a ghost. They go on to refer to the ghost as a tangential, the tangential expression within the common equation. And I've talked to a number of people because it really bugs me that statement doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think I've finally got my head around some of what it is.
I don't even know
Before
the word
we-
here.
means.
So
Tangential.
yeah.
Or is this touching? This is the touching thing.
Yeah, so a tangent
Okay, I got you. I got you.
tangent in math is a line that will go parallel but will never intersect with another line. So if you have a tangential expression within an equation, it is the line that is going alongside, so it's going in the same direction, but it will never actually touch.
I was told there would be no math.
That's about as much math as I can handle. That's why
Okay.
that's why I asked my wife, who is a CPA. I was like, "Okay, you know math. What does this word mean?" And she's like,
Perfect.
"Well, I'm going to need more context." I'm like, "I don't have more context. That's literally
That is-
all I got."
That is math.
So here's what I want to kind of go into before, like, I know we're not doing the sets directly, like reading through the lines and everything, but I want to talk about light and dark because that is the big question, right? So we've talked about this before on the show and what light and dark is, but I kind of want to get everybody's perspective again now that we have some new information about it. So Rick, do you have any idea what you would consider light and dark in this universe?
I read this very differently than most people, I guess.
Okay.
Because when I read the 3 armor sets, I didn't even read this as a literal thing. I read this as an agenda being pushed through metaphor.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do I explain this? Oh, well, no, I can talk about me. I know a lot about this subject. In my past, I've had some unorthodox jobs,
Okay.
and kind of a message that the Drifter's been pushing for a long time is, hey, the dark's not so bad. And then when you read this, you get a nice description of the Hunter set. You get the kind of ho-ha, it's a Titan standing in dark and smelling death, nothing. Then you get to the Warlock set, and it's very eloquent talking about this neutral gray area.
Oh, because the Morlocks have to be elegant, you know.
Right. But they're not the ones telling the story.
Right. This is true.
So,
They're even pretentious without actually talking. It's fine.
correct. But that's neither here nor there. But I saw this as kind of a narrative, like a politician would do, to kind of push an agenda onto the Guardians to say, because we know we're going to wield dark powers. So it's like, yeah, you know, that whole good and evil thing you were born into since day one, that's really not real, because I can't remember where I read it. It's in one of the lore cards or something, where it's, or no, I'm sorry, it was in the voice dialogue for the end of the dungeon. The
Mhm.
Drifter's like, the darkness is just a tool, just like the light. It's just something you use. Well, that's a means to an end argument,
Yeah.
which I'm very familiar with that argument where the ends justify the means. So that's why I said I kind of read this differently. It's like, well, we asked the 9 what the darkness is, and then we kind of get it's a metaphor. And it's like, well, you know, you have to kind of walk that line if you want to get things done, is basically, I guess, the underlying narrative I took away from it,
Okay.
which I know is
So-
in a completely different direction than what we were talking about. But
Yeah, no, it's okay. So with the darkness, if it's their explanation is the metaphorical idea of what darkness is, then is there a tangible answer, something a little bit more tangible of what the darkness is, or what the dark is, or what the light is at this point?
well, I mean, just by simple definition, darkness is the absence of light.
Right. But Darkness and
Generally-
Destiny has a different feel to it. It has a different
Right.
persona.
Generally, when we talk, because we're talking about forces,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that the darkness is kind of the force of entropy. I know that's always kind of been associated with void, but void, it's not true entropy.
Sure.
Whereas, because I'm very interested to know what our new power set's going to be next season.
The stasis
But
sets.
yeah, which I find that's a
Mhm.
interesting name in itself. Stasis. It's like, well, stasis is like I hit the pause button, but how is this power?
Well, okay, so you mentioned void being like the idea of entropy. I agree with you that it's not. Void to me is more of the chaotic energies that are like the ultraviolet. You think of how ultraviolet works as far as the visual spectrum, it's much more frenetic. Void is that as well. They're just using it as more of like a slowing power, right? Like with the tether or maybe more explosive like the Nova bomb. Or if you're a shield thing, that.
I like Black Flag. Void is gravity. That makes so much sense on many levels
Yeah,
because
I
literally a
like
nova
that.
bomb is a singularity. So I'm like, well, there you go.
Blue, what do you think light and darkness are?
Real quick, Black Flag corrected me. A tangent will touch a line, but it only touches it once. So it's like if it will touch it, but if it extends any, it won't touch it again. So
Okay.
just I wanted to give a big shout out to Black Flag for catching me on that. Thank you. I think I agree with Rick. I think darkness is the equivalency of entropy, of consumption, whereas light is the creation. So, and I think that I've always kind of felt that way, but with the way that the armor sets describe them and show like the end goal of each of the two, it totally really actually backs that up. And I agree with you that the armor set definitely has a narrative. It 100% has a narrative, which, I mean, I don't disagree with the narrative, but I recognize that there is an agenda. There is an agenda in this armor set. The question is, is that agenda something that we should avoid? Like, I don't personally disagree with the agenda that is being presented here because it answers, in my mind, a lot of questions about why humanity is at the center of all this drama that's going on. Why we are able to do what we are able to do as guardians, why the ghost is so, I mean, there's so many like little questions that get answered with the conclusion that is being pushed by this armor set, in my mind, that it makes a lot of sense. Now, are the 9 trustworthy? I think that's a different question.
Sure.
But I think that if they're lying, they're skirting the truth so close that I don't really think that they're being false about it. And I think that the information that's being shown here is going to definitely lead into Beyond Light. Because it's hard because like out of character knowledge here is the next expansion is called Beyond Light. The next expansion after that is Lightfall. Like it's hard not to use that foreknowledge in my interpretation of what I'm reading here. But yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I think to sum it up, light is something that creates, dark is something that consumes.
So it's not necessarily a power source. It's how that power is being used.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the manifestation of the power, which goes back into the idea that a guardian can use both light or dark. It's basically the force.
Yeah.
It's you
Right.
have a light. However, I will also emphasize that neither destruction in and of itself is not evil.
Mhm.
Destruction run rampant is evil. It's
So
not even
is
evil.
so
It's
is life
unnatural.
run rampant.
Yes.
It's all consuming.
Yes,
so
it is
it's
all
two
consuming.
sides of the same.
Exactly. A balance is natural. If you have an imbalance on either side, that's when you get into abomination territory, and that's where it starts getting unnatural. And that's where the 9, that's what the armor is showing too, is, oh gosh, the armors, they're like, I agree it's a metaphor, and it's amazingly well done. I really liked reading and teasing apart these particular entries.
Okay. I want to dive into the aspect of what you said with the idea of the Force and the idea of shadows, which I know is going to be a fun little topic. But let's quickly do a commercial break for everybody who's on the podcast, and then we will jump right back into it. And we're back again, and we're going to talk about now the whole idea of gray. Maybe gray Jedi, gray shadows. Not the same kind of shadows as we had before with the Dredgens, right? It's totally different.
I mean, yes, but no.
Okay.
I mean, so I mean, here's the thing, and this is, I think, what the shadows were kind of a precursor to. When you have a balance, it's very hard to stay in that Goldilocks zone, if you want to call it that. It takes, and I think that's where you see again the hero worshipping of our particular guardian, the Guardian, come in, is because the Guardian has been able to walk that line. Everyone
have
keeps.
we though? Like, the thing is everyone says that we have, but it's also based on perspective in a lot of ways too, isn't
True.
it? Like the
Mhm.
whole idea of how we are
but I mean,
approached. We are touted as a hero in some groups.
But if we actually did shoot Aldrin, that changes the argument.
And that's why I argued that we didn't, but
Right.
I mean, I mean, but here the thing is in some perspectives though, if you did shoot him, the action of shooting Aldrin, let's look at this particular trolley problem. The action of shooting Aldrin is, in and of itself, you could say it is pure justice. It's an eye for an eye.
Mm-hmm.
If the intent was to achieve justice, then as much as I disagree with it, I can see the argument that it would not be quote unquote pure evil, because it was in the pursuit of putting
Intent
down.
is different.
Correct. Right. But if the intent was vengeance, then yes, that is crossing a line into a darker, albeit more evil scenario. So intention is, it's the vast majority. Like, Rick, you kind of were talking about the means to an end. This is where it really, like, the concept of the golden rule, and the idea that the means, the end does not justify the means. The means must be, like, you have to have, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. The ends, if the end ever justifies the means, that's a slippery slope that can be, to one side or the other. We saw that with the speaker. The blind obedience to the light made the speaker do things that, I'm not gonna say were good. Censorship, exiling people who disagreed. There are a lot of things that the speaker did that are rightfully shamed and looked down upon. There were also things that he did that were really good. I mean, he helped organize and and consolidate forces to help the city expand and to survive. But blind obedience is dangerous, and that's, you know, that especially zealotism is very dangerous. And that was, you know, that was to the light. Now on the flip side, we have, you know, the Hive, who are 100% dedicated to the dark. And yeah, they do stuff from our perspective that is evil 100% of the time. You know, like they do it all the time. But then you start looking at what Savathun is doing in the recent entries, and it's like, wait, hang on. This is a person. This is an entity that is serving, air quotes, serving the dark, but is looking to get out from underneath the thumb of that particular tyrant. So
right. But
does that mean
something
that
I had a conversation with earlier, actually on Twitter, is that the dark may be the base force of what the Hive work through, correct? Like they work through the idea of destruction
well,
and
the deep, yeah,
consumption, right? The deep.
right.
But
Yep.
Savathun is not necessarily trying to get out of the way of the dark. She's getting out of the way of the worm, because the
Fair.
worm pact is what's
Fair.
actually trying to oppress them. It's their
Correct.
own shackles.
Yeah, it's their
And so-
Faustian bargain.
With Savathun trying to stop us from interacting with the pyramid, which is his own totally weird thing, like the theories that can go along with that, it's just what is she doing at this point? Is she trying to stop us from dealing with the dark? Is the pyramid actually a representative of the dark? Or is the pyramid a representative of just that force? Is the dark not actually the deep anymore? Because we've always associated those two. Rick, what do you think? What do you think the pyramids are?
I honestly just think it's an instrument of entropy, which is why
Okay.
we're all of these planets where the pyramids are just going to go away. There's nobody inside of them. They're just a thing. We don't know exactly what they're doing.
Ghost talks about how they're almost sentient in and of themselves, like they're a being rather than a ship. We've always assumed they were ships, right?
Correct.
But,
But I can't. I just want to say this so it's on tape somewhere, because I've
Go
been
for it.
sitting on this for 20 years. So we're talking about the ends justifying the means in the speaker and everything. One thing that's very important, because a lot of our Guardian's narrative has never been explained like shooting Aldrin, which would obviously be a definitive point for moral judgment on our character. One day we have to have a different conversation, and I'll explain all D&D alignments through my metaphor.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
We'll just do that one day for fun.
Yeah.
We'll tape it.
Yes.
But when you talk about the ends justifying the means and dipping your toe into the gray, so to speak, it's like, okay, would you throw a baby into a volcano for lunch so you get free lunch? No, that would be totally evil. Of course, you wouldn't throw a baby into a volcano just to get a cheeseburger. Okay.
Sure.
Would you throw a baby into a volcano to keep the volcano from erupting and destroying the entire planet and everyone on it?
Yeah, that's where it becomes more
It
questionable.
gets,
Well, that's the
when it
trolley
gets-
problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're kind of speculating on the moral judgments of our guardian, but we don't really know what the full stakes are of what we're about to fight is, or what's the danger to us. It's just kind of like we're being pushed. Well, when we go back to the whole explanation, we're being sold a narrative right now because someone is working an agenda, be it the Nine, be it Zavathun, be it whomever.
Mara, everybody,
I don't understand her. It's fine though.
he's okay.
She doesn't explain anything either.
She
Marasov
is.
oh, go ahead.
I mean, she touts herself as being the mixture of light and dark, right? Like that whole thing. That's a whole nother conversation I want to have at some point, is just like, what is her point? What is her point in all this? What is her place in all of this? And how she's dealing with the ships.
This is my opinion on Marasov. There's a character in the Marvel universe called the One Above All.
Mm-hmm.
who is the one who created everything. Not God per se, but the one who created everything.
The unmoved mover.
And the one above all is Jack Kirby. He's the writer.
Right.
I think Marasov is one of the writers. I'm just throwing that out there. She's like, and we're gonna do this.
Well, and I mean, in a way, but the thing with that is like going, in a way she is, but she's more of like an understudy because she was in
She
herself.
makes mistakes as well.
Well, not even that, but we know that she was in her own way created by something. So
Right.
she is not the final shape, her final right. I don't know how you want to say it. She's not the final mover. She is a mover of great power, but she is not the unmoved mover. The unmoved mover, I think, is still, you know, that's the one that truly started the whole thing. If we're going to go,
Right.
if we're going to double down on the music of the spheres, you know, that is something that, I'll be honest, I don't even know if Destiny will ever address that.
The music of the spheres?
No, the unmoved mover.
Oh, I don't know if they need to.
Right. I mean, it's yeah.
They kind of did in an unveiling, but even then, I don't think they need to.
I agree. I don't think I need to. But I mean, but what I'm saying is like Mara in and of herself was not she was not a creator that she was created and then she went on to create.
Right. So she's just a more powerful player on the chessboard.
Correct.
That's
She's
really
all
that she is.
Yeah, she's a queen.
She is
on
the
the
queen on the
chessboard.
chessboard.
Right. But she is not the actual player that is moving the pieces.
Nor is she the winning play either. Or like the winning like our guardian is the king, right? Like the guardian or the traveler is the king, and the queen can move around and everything and affect them, but they're not necessarily the winning. If they die, it's not going to kill the game.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we have about 9 minutes left before we should start wrapping up. Is there anything else you kind of want to dive into a bit on this intro session before we start wrapping everything up?
I have nothing.
Is it Blue?
I'm gonna agree with Rick on this one. I have something, but it's gonna like devolve into another tangent. But so
it's going to spiral.
It's going to spiral into madness. Yes.
How about this, Rick? You mentioned the stasis powers. Do you want to throw out a theory on what they're going to look like?
Well, they had some footage. It looked like ice, which was kind of awkward. Like the hunter had two, I guess you would
Tomb
call
Raider
them
axes.
Scythes. Yeah,
ice pick type things.
Scythes.
Mm-hmm.
The weapon from God of War, not God of War 2, but is it Darksiders 2 that Death had, whatever those were.
Mm-hmm. Darksiders 2. I don't remember.
I
what
like
they were
blue
called.
meth. Blue meth is a good. Could be blue meth. Thank you, Shaman. I had not considered this option, but I recognize its power. In a
I recognize its power. Its power
shall make them dizzy. I shall make them see things that are not there. Wait, that is on its own.
Everyone's gonna fight really hard, then take a nap. Stasis.
And look for cheese.
Oh God, I have to make a meme now. Son of a...
Yay. Blue, what do you think the stasis powers are going to be? Like Rick mentioned the size, but what are they going to do? Is it going to just be another spectral blades? Is it going to be? Are they going to have more functionality than that? Like, I'm curious if
from
we have any
like a mechanic standpoint, or from like a lore standpoint.
Like what are we can, if we knew the mechanics, we could probably surmise the lore from it. But
I mean, you could theorize the lore just from the name of it, because stasis is, I mean, that's a pretty specific term.
Sure.
But
like the manifestations are going to be different within the classes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of ice because that ties into the idea of stasis. Because if you put something in ice, you're putting it in a deep freeze, basically. I mean,
The
no, go for it.
well, I was gonna say the only because stasis is such a weird term to name a combative power,
Right.
so to
Yeah.
speak. The only thing I could think of if it works in a way like, let's say, if you hit an enemy and the actual power from your fist is stopping them on a molecular level. So you punch a thrall in the chest, and it's not just the force of your hand that's doing it, but the actual energy coming from you is stopping them at a subatomic level. Because you can't stop atoms. That's a bad thing when that happens.
Right.
So you'd be
What?
literally
No.
putting matter in stasis, which would be very destructive.
To everything.
Which is actually a really cool superhero someone needs to make now. Why is he not a villain? Jesus. Call him Entropy Man.
He does nothing. Or he makes you do nothing.
What do? I stop it.
You know
all.
what?
Everything.
You know what he is? You know what he is? We have Entropy Man. He's the person who doesn't wear a stupid mask. I almost cursed. COVID. Entropy Man makes everybody stop by getting them sick.
He's the person to your left.
Oh, that's a window.
That's a window.
This is fine.
I'm alone.
Chaos
It's
Beast.
fine.
It can be anything.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But yeah, that was. Go ahead.
I have a theory how we're going to get the stasis powers. You ready? We're going to Europa to this icy planetoid that will have this beast that Drifter finds and he fights. And then he cuts it down the center because it's so cold and he climbs inside
Oh God.
and it keeps him warm.
But only
And then he
lukewarm.
eats it, but only lukewarm. Then he eats it because he's hungry. And somehow from there, we're going to get to the pyramid ship, and the pyramid's actually going to give us the stasis powers.
I mean, sounds good.
It's gonna
I
smell
like it.
worse.
I
It's
want-
gonna smell worse on the outside.
I want a tauntaun.
I want a tauntaun.
I want a tauntaun.
But they smell bad on the outside.
Yeah.
That's like I think it's Think Geek has the tauntaun sleeping bag.
Oh my gosh.
We will see him in hell.
Oh man. Yee. All right, we should wrap this thing up before we get too crazy. Do you have any shout outs, Rick?
Ah, God, I was not prepared for this question. Come back to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Shout outs to I'm gonna go next, then Blue can take over because he's technically the host, whatever. I've taken over if you can't tell this episode. Shout outs to Blue for putting up with my crazy idea yesterday. Like he mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that the new live stream setup is actually a design that we threw together yesterday. And by throwing it together I made it around 3:00 yesterday and sent him a screenshot of what I was just like, I want this. And he's like, okay. And how did you do it? And then until about 10:00 last night, it was back and forth between him and I just trying to fix things and figure out how to make it work the best. And so this is our relationship. We work well together until Green needs to go away because wife is like, put down the phone. And then I'm like, I gotta go, bye. But yes, shout out to Blue on that one. And then shout out to our new network, Robots Radio, with all the people over there and Tom, and for helping us out and joining us in their little family, letting us join their little family. So, Rick, have you come up with a shout out or two?
Yes, Reismeister. She is an Aussie streamer. And let's just say, if you go into her chat and say something out of line, you will know. Unequivocally.
Is this from
Because-
experience that you're speaking?
Oh no, I've just seen the bodies as they the blood on the streets.
Blood on the streets.
She just like she rips into him, or like how is she?
And then we'll clip it and post you on social media
Yes,
of her
this I
completely
approve of.
destroyed. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's, well, no, just, not to get too deep in it, just with all the things going on, this is the way this behavior should be dealt with, publicly and with shame. Just completely crush someone.
Just wish that people had more shame sometimes.
So yes, Reismeister, go there.
Rise,
You'll thank me.
Like rise is in the rising of the sun.
9.
9.
I went into German. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, I know, which would be no. 9. Is it actually spelled more like the German rise?
I put a link in chat.
Yeah.
Okay, the link is not going to show, unfortunately. Can you put the link in our chat?
RISSMEISTER.
Ah, I got it.
Authorize me for links.
RISSMEISTER.
I can't handle that much responsibility. It's fine.
We don't want to give you that much responsibility.
Don't give me this. Don't give me this power. Are you
Don't give me
insane?
this.
Do you think this is a game?
Yes, we do, and we play it daily. Blue.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, just a big shout out to the Robots Radio for bringing us into the fold and letting us join them. I'm really excited to see where that goes, and also a big shout out to everyone who's in live chat. I think it's a black flag that's like, so wait, this is a test drive. I'm like, well, yeah, but let's be honest. Live stream is a test drive every week.
It's always a test drive.
You always, yeah. So really big shout out to the live chat for putting up with the shenanigans that I probably will edit out of this show. So as always, thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Bye. Okay, Rick. So if you want to dip, since you said you needed to get some sleep, you are more than welcome to.
Let me stop the audacity.
Thank you. Bloody has the link to the
I
folder.
Throw that here.
Where is the folder?
I haven't created it yet.
Love the shenanigans. It's always fun. It is always fun.
You will create a folder now, schnell.
Schnell? What's Schnell?
Schnell is faster or rapidly.
Ah.
Do you want this in Wave, right?
Yes,
either
please.
works, yeah.
Okay. This is how I do Wave, so you deal with it.
Yep. There you go. I'm gonna go grab more water. I'll be right back.
Okay. Heisa. I learned a little bit of German from my grandmother when I was probably like 4 or 5, and it was mainly the name of the cards, like the playing cards. Hats and
I spoke it when I was very small, and
okay.
I have no memory of doing this, but I could speak it when I was very young.
Nice.
Because my grandfather was German.
Yeah.
But it just lost it over the years, and it's the only thing that got me through college.
The German did?
If I wouldn't have had that in the back of my head somewhere, because I have no tongue for foreign languages.
Sure.
And apparently German, you can just scream and they go, this is good. Das ist gut.
Ich keine gebrochenes durch ein Weinig. I know I can semi-read. Yeah, it's in chat. R2 Green posted it in there. you kind of the problem is the German that I have is all phonetic based from singing. So there are things that I do know I get wrong when I'm reading it. I have a
I
at
see it all.
reading.
See, ich kann Gerberschens Deutsche ein. I don't know where
Venig.
Gerberschens. I don't know what this is. I do not know this word.
I don't know. I had fantastic.
Fantastisch.
I like it. They made us take diction back in college because I was the vocal major, and so we had to phonetically learn how to read French. I am terrible at it. Do not ask me to read French. German, I can like fumble my way through it. Italian's a lot easier, so is Spanish.
I found out in college I actually had a German accent from my grandfather because I didn't.
Oh, really?
The teacher would tell us to pronounce words, and I would pronounce them. But
Nice.
to me, I was saying it the same as them. I was not. And one of the students pointed out, "It's like, no, he has a southern accent." Like,
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Instead of High
like
German,
it-
it's more of like a Lower German.
like the word stag,
Mm-hmm.
Stagg. I would say
Instead of
Stag.
Stag. Mm.
So instead of saying Bundestag, I'd say Bundestag. And she goes,
Okay.
"No, this is perfectly acceptable. He is fine. You will leave him alone."
Nice, nice. I had a lot of students when I was teaching elementary music who were in the Mennonite community, and they taught in the Mennonite community. They went to German school, and they always learned in High German, which is more of like that proper German.
Did this not go to the Dropbox?
I don't know.
It
I
said it
look
was
at
uploading.
Dropbox. It's still not there at the moment on my screen.
Where
You
did it
speak two
go?
languages, English and bad English. I think we all at least have
That's
that.
good.
I unfortunately do not have a second language. I was teaching myself French because I'm a masochist. Swiss
I
German.
tried French. I can understand French. I cannot speak French. But I can do
Did
that
you
with a
have
lot of
any?
languages.
Yeah. Did you have any Creole growing up? Oh, I can understand most Spanish. I just
Yeah,
can't
my
communicate in
mother's
it,
father
unfortunately.
actually spoke French until until World War II, and
Okay.
then English became his primary language when he got drafted because
Mm.
he lived in a French-speaking community, and found out at the age of like 79 he was actually not French at all because he went to the local
Ah.
university and did his genealogy. He's like, "I've been lying to people for almost a century. I'm not French. I don't have a French person in my family."
Interesting. Wicked found the Wi-Fi password. And it looks like Green plays trumpet. Trumpet was the brass
Yay.
instrument I preferred at times. I don't know. French horn, if I could play any brass instrument, it would be French horn.
I have one somewhere.
And you have a French horn somewhere, or a trumpet.
French horn.
Nice. Blue
It
was a
was.
trumpet player, weren't you?
Yep.
If you can play brass, you can pretty much play any brass, more or less. Isn't that correct?
Kind of.
Yeah,
The concepts are the same.
Yeah, there's a few exceptions, but yeah, for the most part.
Trombone
Oh,
is its own thing.
Trombone is
exceptions?
weird. Trombone.
So
Well,
Trombone's not a real instrument. Trombone is blowing air through plumbing pipe. We all know this.
yes, but it's one of the oldest instruments for brass. Believe it or not.
I mean, a club is the oldest weapon. It doesn't mean it's a good idea to take to a fight these days.
So as far as like differences in how all the brass works, like the lip stuff, the embouchure dealing with going through the
Go
parcels, those are the same through all the different brass instruments. You can hold down first key on any brass instrument and then play through a whole string of notes. They're all going to be different. Same key, same fingering, totally different notes.
I just saw Raz's comment. That's amazing.
What'd she say?
Trombone is brass.
Trombone is masturbation.
Brass masturbation. It really is. There's
more or less.
grease involved. There's slide oil. There's all sorts of stuff involved. Plus fun stuff that the brass do. They have a little spit valve that they just decide to go all over the stage whenever they want.
Listen, if you've ever played a brass instrument, you know how instrumental that spit valve
I realize
is.
this. But if you've ever been a woodwind player, you know how fucking disgusting that is. Though, I will say this, I have one worse than you as far as a woodwind player. Woodwind players don't have a spit valve. You know what we have to do? We have to suck the spit back into our mouths.
Why would you play that?
Because they didn't put a
Why?
spit valve in the instrument.
No, because it gets trapped in the reed area in the barrel a lot of times.
Oh,
So you have to actually suck the spit back out.
This is a filthy instrument.
It is. It is so filthy. But it's so much fun to play. I love saxophone.
Wicked.
At one time.
I bet you don't have a counter for trebuchet. No, but I do have a good story. So the word trebuchet. I went to an engineering school in North Louisiana.
Oh,
These are not well-read people. These are not well-read people, generally speaking, because they're in the South and they're engineers.
Fair. Continue.
So
Continue.
I had a girl roommate.
Oh, no.
We had a code word. So anytime like somebody was talking to us in a bar and we needed the other one to intercede, or I should say interdict and pretend like, okay, now I need you to come in and be my girlfriend to get me the hell away from this girl, or vice versa. We would look at each other and go, trebuchet.
I love it.
That was the code word to get me the fuck out of here.
Just randomly throw it in there.
Nobody knew what that word was, unless they played like Warcraft or something. But generally, those people weren't in bars for other reasons.
You sound so French. That trebuchet.
Pins. Wait, what?
I'm gonna die. It's fine.
No one is prepared for the trebuchet.
Oh god. I was about to say safe word is acolyte bitches, but I took a drink and it went the wrong way.
My safe word is keep going. And we have broken pins. Okay, I'm gonna get the hell out of here.
All right, have a good night, Rick. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Love you. Bye-bye.
FFC safe word is petrichor.
No.
No. No. Dunk.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me go to the restroom real quick and then I'll be ready.
All right. Head desk worthy. What was I going to do here?
So we're doing the armor sets a little bit more closely this time?
Yeah. I'm just pulling up the ones that I'm going to be referencing here in a second.
Wicked! Wicked! Watch the screen! Watch the screen! You ready? You ready? And huzzah! And there it is. All the things. Did you see the Petras?
Yes.
Did you
I'm
see the
glad.
Petras flying all
I'm
over?
glad that you also find enjoyment out of that.
I find it funny because it's behind everything, so it's not actually interrupting
Yeah.
things.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. I looked at it and I was like, I will love this being like behind, because even then, if it like, that's why I took the spam guard off of it, because have at it. Like I'm like, have fun with it, and it's not going to distract things.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So let me make sure that Audacity's still running on my end. Yes, it is. Okay. I will let you know that my waveform is quite small. Though I think the audio is actually just fine coming through.
The what?
Just for the waveform, it's smaller on Audacity right now. It's not a very large waveform.
Oh.
The peaks.
That's fine. I balance them all anyways.
Cool.
Look how little bumblebees.
Cool. Bunch of bumblebees. Thank you, Rick. Thank you much. And Rick's wave, his audio is in the Dropbox
Yes,
for
I
us
did.
already.
I saw that, so I will grab that tomorrow after I get back. So, all right, let's see. So, I guess just real quick, I figured the advanced session we could just dive into the armor. I have
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll start with the summaries that I put up there.
Okay.
And then I can kind of go whenever you're comfortable, just let me know. Maybe after the first break, we'll talk about why it's important to Guardians.
Okay.
Because that's gonna probably be the meat of the conversation.
Episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have it on a 20-minute timer for. Okay. I'm like giving us leeway on both sides of it a little bit, just depending on the conversation. But you want to do read through the actual cowl and everything, or do you?
I pulled out, like,
you want
if
to
you
do the
scroll
summary?
down, like if you scroll down, I pulled out the quotes that I really, because it is, in my opinion, a metaphorical answer. There's a lot of information that is superfluous to the points that I have.
Sure.
I'm gonna obviously encourage people definitely go read them. I think they're well done, and I will include that PDF that I put together, so that everyone can read them. Because I actually,
I do like that. I actually had that as one of the options to have up on the screen.
Yeah,
because I think that they're super helpful.
See where.
Just pull the PDF up on the browser and then drag it over.
I put the PDF is the problem. Oh no, I put it in.
You have it in Google Drive.
I know. I'm terrible at this game.
Where did you hide the file?
Where did I hide the file? Like, you have no idea how many times I've asked myself that question. Like, I know I have it, but where did I hide it? I hid it so well that I can't find it myself.
If I can share it to you, does that work?
I got it. No, I got it.
Okay.
Just found it.
Cool. All right. So what do you guys think of the face cam and stuff? Those of you in live chat. What do you think? What do you think? I'm excited to see feedback.
There we go. All right, cool. Yeah.
Great addition. Yay.
I did that for the Kintark armor, and I was like, this makes it so much easier to read. And then I started reading these armors, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to put these side by side, because I actually have them handwritten side by side, because I did this while I was down in Texas, and I didn't have internet or a computer. And she kept walking by. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm writing this stuff." She's like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Because it needs to be done.
Yeah, Julie makes fun of me for writing down my stuff. The video is a little off with the voice of Green. I did not know that.
That makes sense because you are
You're
sending it to
capturing.
me, and I am capturing the audio from a separate program. So yeah, there's probably
Wondered if.
and after the debacle that was the Discord video chat the other time, I'm
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that feedback, Trigger. We'll see what we can figure out. Yeah, I agree, Neo. It's pretty busy right now. The thing is that Bloom makes these backgrounds.
I can turn
There
it
are
on.
some backgrounds that work better. Yeah, I think that may help with the frenetic aspect of it. Yeah, that's better. The only thing is that I like your backgrounds too, so I don't know.
Thanks. They're pretty fun. That one actually, that was Dust. That was that background.
I remember it. I remember. Okay. I am ready when you are.
Cool. All right. Let me see.
It's kind of thing. No, I'll be able to see it the same way that my normal. It's just a.
Nope, not that. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 10th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the new information we've gained concerning the Nine. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who have signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of the two people we have on tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is Green Eyed Music Lover with a vanilla candle that you can't really see on screen, but you can see the effects of it on my face because we have face cams.
On my face.
You could see the face. But I'm attempting to.
It's like, what?
I'm attempting to synesthesia. That's not how it works.
Is it
I
lavender?
realized this. I realized. No, it's vanilla. It's actually super sweet smelling. Vanilla and monk fruit. It's very nice. It's like not sugary like a lot of vanillas.
She's holding the candle above her. I'm like, Green, you know that's liquid when that gets hot, right? You know
Right, but it's fine.
It's fine.
I'm not drinking. I'm really not. And I'm also not doing anything else at the moment that would cause any sort of inability to perform via face cam.
Vanilla candle face forever.
I love it. No, we're talking about the Nine, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to start?
Yes. Do it.
Okay, so real quick, like we had talked in the intro session, so Rick had to take off because he has work really early in the morning, and he's an hour ahead of us, so he has a legit excuse to not be here. Really quick, I had mentioned that the armor set was really important, and there is a call out when we get introduced to this armor set that it is what's referred to as an ontological effect that spawns from the question, what is darkness, that the Guardian and the Drifter ask to the Nine. So I realized I said that, and I never really actually defined what that is. Ontology, or ontological, is basically a philosophical study of being. So like what you often see it kind of being referenced in regards to are concepts that directly relate to being, to existing, but also in particular to becoming, reality, and as well as like how we relate to different things. So it really is. It's all about what it means to be. And I know that sounds like really kind of loosey goosey, but really that's philosophy in general. So just deal with it. But ontology, ontology. So when I say it's ontological means that it's basically showing the relations between concepts and categories, and it's also talking about the science of metaphysics when it comes to dealing with the nature of being. So it's all about what it means to exist.
So what is an ontological weapon then? Because an ontological weapon is what the Techians use, right? Like you have
and
in
also,
the Last Wish.
Right. So an ontological weapon would be a weapon. So ontology in simple terms is the study of existence. So if you have an ontological weapon, it would be a weapon that would be weaponizing the foundational basis of existence. So when you have the you're talking about like wishing dragons and all that. When you have this kind of ties into another thing that I have that I'm starting to think the Ahamkara are. When the Ahamkara grant a wish, they are ontologically manipulating the very fabric of existence. They're like with the Vex, and we kind of talked about this before. With the Vex, they borrow from other realities. We know, we are 95% sure that Destiny exists within a multiverse at this point. So if the Vex are borrowing from different realities and bringing those realities into our existence, what's happening with those is that those other realities are therefore being negatively affected because they are now missing something. What an Ahamkara does is it actually blends the realities into each other to make the manipulation exist. So you will see, like, that's why the wishing of the Ahamkara is so much more powerful than the air quote time hopping that we see with the Vex, because it's not just borrowing from another reality, it's making that reality it's merging those two threads.
They're merging them instead of like pulling it directly out of another reality like we do the perfect paradox and bringing it back into ours. Like you have that, there's a line that Vance has in one of the newer cards where he says, how many realities did you steal this from, kind of thing.
Yeah, perfect paradox
instead of that.
Yeah, basically with... So, like... I could go on a tangent on that one. Basically, perfect paradox is presented as what's referred to as a bootstrap paradox, with the fact that we are dealing with a multiverse and not time travel. It's impossible for it to be a bootstrap paradox. So it's a bootstrap paradox is when you have an item that exists because at some point in the timeline, something took it back into the past and made it exist. So it has no discernible creation. It exists because it existed in the future, which then brought it back into the past. It's basically a closed circuit loop. But because because Destiny is taking place, as far as we know, within a multiverse, time travel is still not possible. So manipulation of a temporal fabric is currently not possible. You can appear to manipulate time by stepping into different realities, because different realities theoretically could either through the course of events or through actual time traveling through their time, they could actually travel through time at a different pace. Or events could happen differently. Like, a good example is what happened with the Vault of Glass and Skolas. Skolas actually went into other realities and gathered all the fallen that were loyal to the House of Wolves and brought them into our reality. He didn't go back into time. He actually went to a different reality in which those creatures were still existing and ported them over to ours. So there was no stepping across time. And so, like within the Vault of Glass, when we go to the past or present, those are actually just our names for them. What actually is happening is we're actually going into different realities where events occurred differently. And so it's the same physical location, but it's in literally a different reality. So events happen at a very different pace.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
Dancing
redirect a little
Veru.
bit and
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
to
Yeah, so what that all kind of ties into is because we have different realities, the 9 actually use that as a teaching method. They use the ability to create this ontological effect, this existing effect that and kind of what I was saying earlier is like they actually give the guardian the ability to experience the answer. So when we ask what is the darkness, well, the first thing that we really need to know is, okay, so this is the darkness. Well, what's opposed to the darkness? The light. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a difference between what is the darkness and what is the light. And so in the answer that they give us, we get the 3 sets of armor. We get the hunter armor, which is the flowing armor set. And in this set, we have a reality that is shown to a hunter who is held unchanging and pristine in the wasteland of burned sand. Now, this wasteland is noted by the hunter who's experiencing it as being similar to the tower, but it's noticed here that this is a reality that is dominated solely by light. So this is what is the light. Now, the other thing that is noted here is near the end, the hunter is interrupted by another light bearer. It's something that is described as ancient and rotting, and it's begging for a final death. It's begging for an end to be brought to this unchanging hellscape that it exists in.
right. Your soul is weary.
Right.
Your feet find purchase in shifting sand. Your cloak billows in the wind, yet something clings to it, weighing it down. It's that never-ending warrior mentality, right?
Yes, and also it starts showing the the abominable nature of light. We talked about balance in the last episode. This is a world that the balance has been skewed, where only light exists, only creation exists. It has achieved the final shape in that everything it has created so much that there is no more space to be created in. It has filled all the empty spaces. And I'm gonna come back to that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. So then we have the reality of the darkness. Now, this one, to be fair, I know there's an easy joke about being the Titan armor set and how literally every single entry is the exact same for the most part. But it's also, that's the point. The darkness, the reality that's dominated by darkness. So this reality is shown to a Titan. And the thing that's called out is that the Titan is the only remaining thing in existence or in the world at this point. There is no light. There's nothing. And the only experience that is noted in these armor sets or these entries is your light fades away. That's the only experience that's the only thing that happens. Like there's some sensation of wind roaring in your ears, but the major thing is on every entry, it's the shortest of the entries, and every single one ends with your light fades away. So this is a reality that's dominated solely by darkness. The balance has been skewed towards the darkness. And remember, when we were talking about the darkness, one of the things that we were saying is it consumes. That's what it does. It consumes. So this is a reality that has been completely consumed. There is nothing.
You smell a rotting stench all around you, is in every card as well.
Yeah, it is. There is nothing in existence here. It's just because it's all been consumed. So it's also nothing, but it's nothing out of entropy, not out of creation. And so then we come to what I have kind of started calling the reality of shadows. This is the channeling armor. And this is another set similar to the Hunter that's very, very dynamic. This is the reality that is shown by a warlock and is noteworthy in that while we're in the other two realities, so first thing, where in the other two realities, the 9 were almost impossible to understand. Here in this reality, they speak clearly and they speak very easily to the guardian who is looking around, the warlock. The description that you see here is a world in which everything is visible and recognizable by the warlock. the reason why I say that is in the darkness reality, the Titan couldn't see anything. He couldn't even see his hand.
Right.
In the hunter reality, the hunter is if he looks up from his feet, he is blinded immediately by the light. He can't see anything either. He only experiences the sensation of things because he can only stare at his own feet. But in the warlock's reality, they can perceive without a problem. The other thing that is interesting here, and I noted it as a potential nod to the future, is the presence of red ribbons, which are binding the hands of the warlock. I was reading on Reddit. I can't remember who I was reading. I'll try to link them in the show notes. But I was reading that they were like, "Oh, that's interesting," because it's basically holding the warlock in stasis, which is just kind of an interesting kind of nod. You also see that in the prophecy dungeon with the Sparrow Rainbow Road thing. That's the red ribbons. So those are the three scenarios that we have presented to us within the entries. That's my summary.
It's interesting. One of the things that is, we always talk about the formatting of the entries, right? And in every entry, you have the call out for the different, I don't know what we would call them, the light, dark, and the between, right? Like they are formatted very specifically in each card because it's not the word in the traditional sense of what they're trying to use it for. It's the word as the encompassing of the concept of light, right? It's not light as in the light of from the light above me or anything like that, or the darkness by shutting off the light. It is the concept of the powerful light itself, which I find interesting because you see in a lot of the 9 cards, formatting is super important. And you brought up the fact that in all the Titan cards, everything is just, it's even beyond the future that we saw in the Panoptes.
Yes,
missions.
very much so. Very much so.
It's way past that. Like, you had the idea of the consumption of everything via the Vex in Curse of Osiris. That is that future, but that's not even the entirety of what darkness is. Darkness is beyond that. And interestingly enough, he is still capable. He is still a light source within that darkness because he is not himself within entropy. He's not consumed by the darkness itself. His light will fade away and then he will die, but he's still a light in the dark. I wonder if some of the metaphorical aspects of this are meant to literally just be like, you have to figure out how to walk that middle road and where that middle road is.
Yes, I would agree. The other real quick call out too, the Vex are not seeking consumption, they're seeking confluence. So there's a difference between confluence and consumption. Like confluence is, literally the blending of everything into one thing. It's the idea of this like final shape or whatever. What the darkness is doing is it's confluencing, I guess, in a way, but it's actually consuming and destroying it. And again, I want to again stress, light and dark are not good and evil. Like that no. I know it's very easy to create a binary system like that. But with these terms in particular, I think it's very important to say that it's not that one side is right and wrong. It's you have an existence, you have the nature of existence. The ontological thing that's being described here is the process of creation and the process of entropy and of destruction. Those are natural cycles. Anything that lives should experience death, and that's where you get the problem with the Guardians and the Hive. Both are technically abominations to the natural order. The Hive don't necessarily die, neither do the Guardians.
The thing that I want to call out, though, is the idea of experiencing entropy, right? Like we don't experience entropy in the same way that a lot of things do, though we do still have aspects where we get hungry, even though we don't have to eat and whatnot. There's still entropy within ourselves, like the consumption of things is still a thing that we can do physically as far as the physics of the world. But we do know of, I don't know if you'd even call them creatures. We do know of the cocytus beings that were trying to come through the gate that could not figure out how our physics worked to be able to survive themselves. It almost makes me wonder if those things, that blob, that amoeba type thing, amoeba or whatever you want to call it, coming through the gate was actually of the same as the light and the dark as we know it within like the Traveler, and it's of the same realm is where I'm heading with this. Like,
Right.
do you think that it came from that same area? Because once the Traveler hit our realm, it was subjected to the concepts of entropy as well as the pyramids, at least so we think.
Yeah, I think so, and that's like the one stumbling block I have with the 9 being like the quote unquote experts on balancing here, is that the 9 up until this point they haven't understood entropy. The 9 have, as far as we have seen prior to this, have existed in a binary intellectual world, a logical world. Like you either exist or you don't. Like there is no process of degradation that we, as in reality, we recognize that you get older every minute, every second. Your body is getting older.
Right.
It is falling apart.
Cells
slowly.
are dying and
Now,
rebuilding. And
correct, and being born and splitting and all that. Like that's just that's for us as humans. Like even in reality, like not just in game, like in reality, that is such an integral part to our existence that we can't even fathom that not happening. However, the 9 come from a more, it's more of a computer world. It's either you're on or you're off. Like it's
the
1 or
binary
0.
aspect.
Yeah,
right.
it's and so that's where Cocytus was a very interesting read, because it was literally an entity from a binary system trying to understand what in the hell was going on. When it sent something through, it's like, okay, it should exist, and it dies, and it's like, what? Like, you can just see this, like, what? Why is this not working? It exists. It should work. And they had to, like, that's where you get the idea of like Zur, and where you have the idea of Orin as their emissary, as their agent. These are entities that require a mediator in our reality to even communicate, and even then it was very poorly done. Like it was very clunky.
But that's where I'm kind of heading with this, is you have the idea of the gardener and the winnower,
right,
setting up the game, setting up the idea of all of this, and then they go from the theoretical of creating the game and setting up the points where everything is planted, to actually playing the game and moving from that realm of thought in theory into moving into the reality of it, and then they play the game itself. It almost makes me think that the things that were part of that cocytus were from that same idea of the theoretical moving into the actual physical. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that would actually go in line with some of the audio that we get from Prophecy, because now, if like going back to Cocytus, if that was the 9, then what Prophecy shows is that they have achieved an understanding, at least to a degree, that they can now communicate directly with us. And we kind of teased the Orin bit. But there is a line from Orin that says, that she has forced a respite from the 9. She is no longer their emissary. So, which begs the question of what happened to Zur. But you know, I'm
Sir's
thinking,
will is not his own. I think she
and
has her own will still.
that's true. Like that is very true. I would accept that as a situation or as a resolution to that thing. Because I think I don't think Xur exists without the will of the Nine. I think he is literally a puppet. But that's my own. I have my own theory about that. But I find it interesting that if that is accurate, if she has actually been cut loose from it, what that means is they don't need an emissary. And an emissary is a messenger. That's what they do. So if they don't need a messenger, well, now we have communication directly with them at this point.
It makes me wonder if they still do need some sort of messenger, even though right now they've figured out how to communicate with, in some ways, I've always been confused about this. Like, why is the prophecy dungeon based within the tower? Why do we know about it? Like, there's not a whole lead into it necessarily.
Right,
You have Eris and Drifter, but that's about it.
Well, and I think that is because of Drifter. Because a Drifter goes to the Nine and asks them a question with the Guardian. And so I think that answer is, well, that's just where the question was asked.
Okay.
At least as far as I can tell.
Before we get into another question, let's do a quick commercial break, and then we will jump into why is this an important factor for us Guardians. And we're back. And Blue, why is this important? Like we've been talking about these concepts, but what does it even mean to us? You know.
So I think and we kind of saw this. We were talking about this a little bit at the closer to the end of the intro, but like the answer being shown, well, it's definitely not final. You see that with Ghost calling that out. Here, I'll pull this up for live stream as well. In Cloak of Judgment, you see this being referred to as like, it's not the final answer. They're still processing it through, but their process of like the Nine's process of thinking things through requires also, because of the way they communicate, we see that process. So the answer that is being shown to us currently within the Prophecy Dungeon and within these armor sets shows that the light and darkness are both necessary forces. This is very similar to the teachings of Ulan Tan and the Symmetry. We require a balance of the two sides. Without the opposing powers of the other, the final form of the universe is unnatural and as I've kind of called it before, is an abomination. So in this way, the Nine are showing that we are incapable of existing in a world filled with just light or just darkness. We require a balanced, symmetrical world. And so in this, we must become champions of not the light or the dark, but actually we got to become champions for both. And the Nine actually take this a little bit further and say, instead of becoming champions for the light or the dark, you need to be champions for you. We see this within the channeling robes part. I'm going to try to see if I can find this quote. I have my quote, but I'm going to pull it up for people here. Sure. So it's right here. They say, "You see only what the light left you. Every day there will ever be, unmarred forever, for you and all those like you. But the dark has returned, and when light and dark meet, universes collapse. Not something to mourn, natural order. But we believe you exist to buck natural order. You always did, even before the dark, before the light, when it was just you and those like you." So end quote there. There's a few things I want to break out of that. So there's a reference to those like you. I actually am reading that as actually a reference to humanity, to humans, or humanity and its subsets, which would include Awoken and Exos.
And Exo.
Yeah, not other light bearers. I think this is humans. Because of the specific call out,
not fallen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not fallen.
Clarifying that real quick.
Sorry. Yeah. So this is a potential nod to why Earth is at the central point of this huge space drama that's going on. There's something special about humanity, and whatever you want to call about the egotistical nature of that narrative, fine. But the thing is that's where the central focus is. So what is it? What is it that makes humans so central to this situation? And it's even more so because there's a specific call out near the end of the quote that is specified that humans, or those like you, existed prior to the arrival of light or dark. So we now also have a point here where we are seeing before the light or the dark existed in our reality, we were here, which means that, and this is like you had asked me, I think earlier in the intro session, if I remember, is light or dark power, or is it the use of power? This is why I'm saying it's not the power. Light and dark is the users of that power. It's a manifestation of the elemental forces. You have arc, solar, void,
utilization
and stasis.
of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm starting to see that. Also,
Okay.
you see here a call to natural order. So this is where we start seeing an argument of the battle between opposing sides, light and dark. Not the battle of good and evil, but of light and dark. In the sense of it being natural. And in many ways, this is a good thing. You want this thing to be in balance. The light seeks to fill empty spaces with things it creates, and the dark seeks to devour things, consume. So the cycle is a never-ending battle between the two, one of creation and one of destruction. Neither is necessarily evil or wrong, but neither can be left unchecked. If the light were allowed, it would create until everything was filled. So we go back to the hunter armor set here. And this would lock reality into a never-ending and unchanging wasteland. Similarly, if the darkness was allowed to consume without the light being there to temper it being able to temper the destruction it caused, there would there would be nothing left. It would be the Titan armor. There's nothing. It's just darkness. But each in their own distinct method yearn for nothingness. One where there is no space left to fill, and the other where there is nothing but emptiness. So they both would result in the reality becoming locked, if you will, in nothingness. Now, that's where you start seeing kind of these other little fragments of interesting dialogue going on, because the nine also then bring up the ghost. And this is, we kind of mentioned this at the end of the intro session. The nine point to the ghost as what they call a tangential expression within the common equation, within the cloak judgment, which I will pull up real quick right here. The quote in full says the light, well, I'll reference later too, but it says the light destroys, guardians destroy, but ghosts rebuild. They are a tangential expression within the common equation. So what they're doing is they're calling out that while the guardians and light actually destroy, the ghosts actually rebuild. This is in line with the nine's view of light and dark as mere forces of energy or sources of energy to be used by the guardian. So they're not the actual energy, but they're tools to be used by the guardian to build something for themselves with the paracausal capabilities that they have been granted. Basically, in order for the light or dark to achieve anything, they require living agents. The light can't come into our reality and be like, pop, we're going to do that. They have to have someone do it for them. So these agents, in turn, through the support of the power, bring into reality the desire of the light or the dark. So the hive, like you were talking about, earlier, the hive are bringing into reality the desire for consumption, to consume. With the worm gods, you have the Faustian bargain of the worms. That's consumption.
But the guardians aren't necessarily creating a bunch of things. They're making room for a bunch of things, but they're still fighting and they're still destroying other things in order to make room for new things. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the guardians themselves are capable of being the light in the same way because of the mixture between the two, right?
Yes. The guardians are, however, creating, because when we cast a super, we are manifesting through paracausal nature a new weapon. So we are creating something.
But we're not a wizard still fires a weapon at you. They still cast as well, but they're not necessarily casting light in the same way that we are. They're not. The thing that I want to stress is that the guardians, the ghost, I would say, are light. I would agree with that. They create, they re-manifest things. They manifest ghosts. They manifest sparrows, weapons, armor, what have you. Even projections of ourselves. We create that with the ghost help. But guardians themselves are not light. They can't be. They can fight for the side of the light, but they're not light themselves. Because
Right.
guardians
And-
still function as a calling force.
Correct. The Guardians, right. No, that's the thing, is the Guardians are a blend of the dark and the light. But the thing is with the ghost, so we know that the light can destroy, right? We know that they can destroy. It just doesn't usually. It just looks at creating things. So the reason why the Guardians are being referenced as akin to the light is because up until this point, Guardians really have just blindly followed the light. There has not been a lot of questioning of, hey, what's the end goal of this whole thing? You know, they tried and they got in trouble because Osiris did it and he got exiled. Aphrodite is questioning it, and she's self-exiled, but she even, in her own way was like, I don't want to be a weapon.
Right.
She wants to look at something and not just be like, all right, how am I going to kill it? Like that's not her. She doesn't want that to be what she is known for.
Trying to exit the pattern in some way.
Right. In that, exiting the pattern, Wicked's talking about Toland also tried to exit the pattern. Now, Toland did it in opposite direction, but still, he did try to exit the pattern of the Guardians. He questioned the things.
Right, which is what you see in the Hunter card, in the you want to essentially off yourself because you're just stuck, right? That's the whole point of that card.
The ancient rotting light bearer is begging for death because it's an eternity of nothing. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's great to be immortal, but I can never remember the Greek character's name, but there's a Greek mythology, a Greek dyad wishes for her lover to become immortal, and Zeus, being Zeus, says, okay, cool, he's immortal. Oh, but he still ages. So he can't die, but he keeps aging, and that's how they get grasshoppers. So
well, it's also I remember that story, and it's also kind of like the Dorian Gray thing, right? Like it's all well and good until you become just this husk of a soul within the body itself. The body may still look young, but you're aged beyond belief.
Yeah, they actually did. Speaking of Dorian Gray, they did really good justice to him in. I just blanked on the name of the show, but he was in a show that I just finished watching.
A movie?
No, not a movie.
Show?
TV show.
Because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a guilty pleasure, but a terrible movie.
I would not classify that as a pleasure in any stretch of the imagination. Just a terrible movie.
It was fun. It was fun.
Oh gosh, no, it was. I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed that I can't remember it. But anyways, they did a really good job of showing exactly that of his character. And I loved it because it was very subtle how they did it, but in the end, it was exactly that. He's like, he doesn't care because he doesn't care. But anyway, so Guardians up until this point have shown that they've been just blindly following the light. You see that with the speaker, right? The speaker's just like light. Like there's no question of it.
It's the creation of a faith, right? Like that was the speaker.
The blind faith, right? Yeah. And and as we kind of discussed earlier, in pursuit of that blind faith, bad things were done. Censorship, exiles, that's just the surface of, I'm sure, what has been done in order to protect the city. And we can argue back and forth. I get it. I don't agree with it. But up until this point, for the most part, Guardians have blindly followed the speaker, the light, whatever. However, the 9 are basically questioning this and saying, hey, look, what we want to show you is that neither the light nor the dark are required by the Guardians to hold power. Their power is actually able to utilize either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, to the 9, these sources are energies that we should control instead of being controlled by. We are the wielders of the tools, so why are we allowing the tools to demand how we use them? Within the bond judgment entry, I'm going to pull that up real quick for live chat here. There's a quote that says, "You've built so many monuments, large and small, in worship of your light. Will you do the same for the dark? Will you ever build for yourselves again?" So again, a nod here to prior to light or dark being in our existence. So, and this is where the 9 kind of double down on the whole, hey, look at the ghost as an important part of this whole equation. So they turn and they look at the ghost and they say, look, this is the central focus to this situation here. This is the link that allows the Guardians to wield the light and is the creative force that opposes the Guardian's own destructive power. So the ghost is basically the bridge that connects the paracausal powers to the free will of humanity. And that right there is what is causing humans to be at the center of this whole thing. Because this bridge, the paracausal power is all great and good, but if you don't have the will to actually manifest it, it doesn't do anything. And so the other thing is, this bridge, it doesn't just need to connect to the light. In some cases, it's already been shown that it can connect to, if it's not already connected to, the darkness. And so it's through the pairing of the Guardian and the Ghost that an entity is basically brought forth that can both destroy and create with the powers that are underneath the light and the dark. So, and that's where you come back to the light destroys, the Guardians destroy, but the Ghosts rebuild. They are a tangential expression within the common equation.
Right.
So, and then just to kind of wrap that into a little nice ball of timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly stuff, the term tangential expression, as we kind of discussed before, indicates that the ghost is something of a divergent or a digressive aspect of the common equation that is our existence. So the term tangential is often used in mathematics to denote a line that traverses alongside another. Basically, we kind of talked about that already. It can touch, but after that one point of touching, it will never touch again. So the ghost at the inception, which would be the birth of the ghost, touches the light. But after that, it can run parallel, but it's going to be perfectly parallel to it. It's never going to touch it again. So here, the ghost is shown to be something that shares in the direction, but it's not the final result that the light and the Guardian show. So instead of being just destruction, just creation, the ghost is actually able to, through their pairing with a Guardian, through their linking with a Guardian, create a third way, a realm of shadows. And that's where you see not just destruction, but you also see creation and rebuilding through the Guardian Ghost pairing. And that is like in response to the question of like, what is the darkness? The 9 are like, who cares? It's you guys that are the important thing. Like, the darkness is just one side of this existence that we now find ourselves in. It is entropy. This is creation. But in order to actually go forward, you need to blend the two. And that's what the Guardian and the Ghost do.
I do think there's a little bit more that the 9 are telling us besides just that. I do think that is the large part of it within the armor sets. But I think within the raid itself, the imagery of it is quite not different, but more expansive than just the idea of this is light, this is dark. You're in between, and you can use both. You should do that. I think it's a little bit more than that. And I do want to get into that, but I do want to take us to a short commercial break before we jump back into that.
Sounds great.
And we are back, and I want to talk about the concept of imagery within the dungeon itself. Blue, you and I have actually gone through almost the entire thing together. I've finished it on a different platform. I finished it with a few other friends, but I want to talk about the different steps that we go through in the raid itself, because there's some beautiful imagery that we see. Because you start in the kind of I want to call it like the sewer area, where you're first learning that you have to kill knights either while standing in the light or while standing in the dark. And in some areas, in the first area, it is a balance in the room. The balance is very easy. You can find plenty of places to stand in the light to kill the enemies, and you can find plenty of places in the dark to kill the enemies to get that to progress. Second room, it's much harder to find areas of darkness to kill, but you still need it. So you're having to maneuver a little bit. So there's some imagery there in that when there's too much light, it does become more difficult to be able to cull back things. There's not, the balance is out of whack, right?
Yeah, I would
Third room,
real quick.
flip as well.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing, and I was kind of thinking about this, when you're saying, hey, you have to stand in a light or stand in the dark when you kill. I think that's also a good way of looking at, you have to intentionally do something. Like the intention is important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really cool way of showing that.
It's the intention of, am I doing this for growth, the possibility of growth, or am I doing this for the possibility of destruction? Now, granted, if you're reducing light and dark to destruction and creation, that is a very limiting way of putting it, because in both cases, you're still destroying something. Yeah. You're just destroying it in the name of something.
Yeah,
you're destroying it in the name of light. You're destroying it in the name of dark.
I mean, I would argue that is the sole purpose of an avatar in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sorry.
Yes. Yeah, you're good. And then from there, we also see these orb-like things down in there, and some of them are covered in gold, and some of them have more of a revealing thing of these star pattern orbs of darkness that are. There's a lot of beautiful imagery and art within that first series itself, and then you have to climb up into an area where you're fighting on a very limited space. And in that space, things are always shifting with every progression that you have. It's more like the real life of what we're dealing with in the game. Every choice that we make in game has a very interesting response, whether the players on the board, the chessboard that Mara talks about, moves in some way that you may not necessarily perceive right away, but if you pay closer attention, you can see how to maneuver yourself within it. So it's also one of the most difficult locations in the entire dungeon, in my opinion, because
agreed.
The stupid boss and the fact that you get knocked off all the time.
Absolute chaos.
Yeah, it's just keep moving. That is the moral of that room, is just keep moving and run away as much as you have to. But from there, did you have anything within that second area? Because that's still in the heaven and hell area. We're technically in the heaven side, I guess, if we're not in the underbelly anymore.
Just keep swimming.
Yes, it is.
Nice black flag for the Disney. No, I would say that the other thing that I find interesting in what I refer to as the hexahedron of doom, is that's where we also see Toland show up. Or
when we get into the squares.
Rephrase that. Yeah. Air quotes Toland, the ball of light.
Yeah, I think it's still a manifestation of the 9 to show us a familiar guide.
Right, and I'm trying, I would agree with that. I still can't help but see a glowfish whenever I see that, because it's like, or an anglerfish. I'm like, I don't really want to follow that, because I know what happens.
I mean, who wants to follow Toland? Really? Why? But within that, you're talking about that room that makes everybody sick, particularly Orchid from Guardians of Lore.
Right. Well, okay. Yes. There's the, I think it was the Singularity Room or whatever. No, I'm talking about in the
Astrolab.
What is it? The Thunderdome.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, the Thunderdome. That's where, because in order to kick it off, you have to punch Toland.
Yeah.
Because he's in the center
yeah,
platform and you
I
have to
forget
jump on
he's
him.
in there.
Yeah, you have have
Right.
to
But he doesn't
Mario him.
necessarily lead you through like he does in the next stage.
No, that's correct. He psychedelic room. Jeez. Yeah, that one he actually shows you where to go. But like
Right.
he is the catalyst for the Thunderdome to activate.
Mm-hmm. I do like when we move from that location on top with the astrolab like thing and the gyroscope that's moving around and changing the shadows. When you leave that, you actually do your first descent into, I believe, the sand in that first area. You think you stand on a triangle in that one. And that's another one of the little
Yes.
pieces of imagery is that you're dealing with circular imagery of a platform that you go and stand on, which is the light which lifts you, or you go into a quote unquote darkness thing, which is a triangle, which looks like fuchsia quicksand that you slide down into, and it takes you into a different area. They have another more fond name that we came up with
for it.
that is not suitable for a podcast of this nature. But it is fun. I know. The thing that I want to go into when you get into the square room, where you're dealing with all the... It looks like an MC Escher painting that you're dealing with, that you can climb up on everything, and then once you finish one side of the room, gravity changes, you get lifted, it completely shifts, and you're in a new perspective. And you're dealing with a new perspective, and you're dealing with trying to traverse this by changing perspectives each time.
Very quickly, changing perspectives.
Yes. I'm not reading any of that chat. You can go and forget it. Okay, so changing perspectives is important. You have to use that to traverse through the square room. Do you think there's like a major lesson in there besides just the idea of continuing the moving from light to dark, but also changing perspectives? Because if I remember correctly,
I think changing perspectives is the main thing. That's what I took out of it.
Yeah.
I was like, between not throwing up and just trying to shoot everything.
There wasn't any sort of major call out on any level, not like there is in the boss room. Because in the boss room, you're dealing with different locations, right? Like you have Mara's throne on one side, and then you have like the pyramid thing on another, which is more of like the Pyramidion.
Yeah, and the other... No, because like because that's the hexahedron room, right?
The final boss.
Yeah. No. The hexahedron's the throw up room. That one I think was really just a twisty turvy. The wasteland though did have call outs to the areas.
Speaking of wasteland, there is a triumph tied to listening to the radio calls from the emissary, and I think it's on every location, like Mars, Mercury, Titan, they all have one of those radio signals that you can listen to.
Oh,
the
really?
emissary talk about her things. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, there's a triumph tied to it.
I'll have to
but
go find that down. That's cool.
Yeah, traversing the wastelands. How much of a Dark Tower feel did you get from that one?
I am so proud that I was not the first one to say that.
When I went through that the first time, I went, he's going to lose his mind.
I mean, we were chasing something in black across the wasteland. It's just... I don't know. I know that Bungie keeps audibly saying that they didn't have any inspiration from it, but that's a lie.
Yeah. I think you may have manifested an inspiration or two there.
I'll completely take it.
But okay, so you're traversing the wasteland, which it's consumed in shadow. It's not in darkness, but it's in shadow all the way through, and there are moments of light, given off either through the ring that looks similar to the traveler side that you see at the very, very end versus the other side, which is more of like a pink. I don't know. You start to get the psychedelic neon colors coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there you go into that's when you go into the square room, isn't it? After that? Or you go from the square room into that? I'm getting it mixed up a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, so you go from Thunderdome into the Wasteland, and
Wasteland
then
to square room
square
that makes
room
everyone
back
sick.
to the Wasteland,
Uh-huh.
and
then to the
that's
ribbon.
ribbon Rainbow Road, and then
That is super cool. I love the imagery in that. I love the imagery in that area because not only do you have multiple ways to get down, right? There's more than one way to traverse the path. Whether it's down the ribbons on your Sparrow or even just running down or jumping down from platform to platform. But there's enemies along the way. There's also pyramids that are related more towards the light, pyramids that are related more towards the left that you traverse through. And then you get to the point where you just have this fun little elevator where you watch Thrall just get
it's
all the way up.
amazing. We just stand there. We're like, wait for it, wait for it.
It's fun. I like it. It's one of my favorite areas. I mean, it's not a hard area, but it is a lot of fun. From there, you go and you get mobbed by a bunch of thrall for a moment, which is more of just a last-ditch effort, I think, to stop you from making your way to the boss room, right?
Yeah.
And then in the boss room, you have a reprise of the same mechanic you dealt with in the square room, where once you clear the room by putting out the totems, you go into the center and you switch perspectives, but instead of dealing with an immediate switch in perspective in the same room, you go into the boss fight itself. And I love the imagery of the boss fight because it is taking all those lessons of light and dark and how you have to utilize both. But by being the hero of that story, you also are going to subject yourself to a never-ending battle where you have to move forward always. Because if you fall behind too long, that's when you're going to die. If you do not make a choice, that's when you're going to die. You have to be decisive. I don't know. Did you get that kind of feel from the boss fight, Blue?
Yeah. Also, don't be on the platforms that he lands on.
Don't.
Pens.
It's don't get ahead of the boss is the answer to that one because he always jumped ahead of the boss and I don't know why. I love him to death. I know he was trying to get out of the way, but he always ran to the exact point where the boss was going to spawn and it's like
the other thing I do like about the boss, and I might have missed you saying this, is that his major ability is to send you back to the beginning.
Correct. It is to make you start over.
I like that.
It's like it's almost a little karmic and reincarnation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like you get hit with it and you have to start. Like I have to sit with it a little bit more because I'm still trying to process through the mechanics because I get the mechanics, but I have to translate the mechanics in my head into how do I do more damage. So the metaphor for that particular fight hasn't quite sunk in just yet.
Oh, I love it.
But like that was such Bungie always does a really good job with their dungeons, or raids, whatever. But I was like, that was such a cool, like, wait, what just happened? Like, I mean, it's like a whoa, what? Like, I love it. Yeah, Black Flag's also pointing out that it could be a stand-in for Aramis. That's cool. I like that idea.
Oh, that is an interesting one. I like it. So, we are actually towards the end of the episode, Blue. We've already made it there. Do you have anything else we want to kind of talk about when it comes to the 9? Because
no, I survived.
Yes, with a lot of help.
Mm-hmm. As always. I mean, I'm not going to
Yep.
deny that.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's the fun thing. You learn that, especially, I don't know how I'm going to do that as a solo. You can solo the dungeon. People have done it, but I am not.
What? I don't know. Like we've had this conversation. I don't really pay attention usually to in-game stuff.
It's a cool, if you haven't gone and played it or haven't watched it, I like this dungeon better than any other dungeon that we've had so far. I think the puzzles are doable for solo. I think that it's fun. I think that it's inventive, and it's not just heavy like Pit of Heresy was. It's so
I need to coerce you into doing Pit with me because I've
Yeah,
heard that
Pit's
it's a nightmare.
it's not that bad. Pit is
Well, I
actually
guess
not a
especially
difficult one
now.
now, but yeah, it's
But
not
like,
too bad.
I will be honest with like the prophecy. I really like the wasteland. Like
Mhm.
it's I like how it embraces that openness, and it just like, yeah, you're kind of getting pushed to, hey, go this way, like, because you have the minotaurs or whatever running around.
Right.
But like, really, honestly, it's not impossible. Just, I mean, you could wander around there and just like look at the different like sets and the sandbox of all that. I think that's what made me really like, and this is coming from someone who I have not run a dungeon. Well, I ran Shattered Throne a lot
Mhm.
because I wanted
Because
the
you
bow.
had to. Because
Yeah,
you wanted
the
Wishender.
bow. Yeah, and I got the bow, and I
Mhm.
never went back to Shattered Throne after that. But like, I'm not usually a big fan of in-game stuff. I don't usually care for it. But like,
Mhm.
I really actually enjoyed running through Prophecy. Like
Right.
it's got, like I was kind of saying in the intro session, it's got like that really good balance of Frentic needs to shoot things, but it's not Crota's End. It's not like the
No.
it's not the Thrall death hallway, but it's like, I don't know, it's got a great balance of it, and it's got the visual aesthetics that
Right.
that are teaching, like they actually
Mhm.
have story in them, and I don't know, it's just it's a great
It's
blend of
it's a
everything.
it's a work of art that is also a playable space. Because I honestly think that the design for Prophecy is the highest and most well designed, with as much meaning as you can pack into everything, because everything seems to have a story to it, right, within
Shattered,
this dungeon.
yeah, Shattered Throne. I
Shattered
It's up
Shattered
there.
Throne, the problem with Shattered Throne is that it's up there, yes, as far as like a really meaningful story, but there's a difference between having a moving through an established area, whether it's Shattered Throne because that's Mars' old throne world, or Pit of Heresy, which is the domain of the Hive on the moon. Those are established areas, so you don't get to tell and teach a story
Okay.
about an overarching concept
Yeah,
through
you don't
that.
have
You're
you have a
teaching about
blank
the
slate.
history of right. So with this, they get to be more artistic and be like, hey, I want to teach this concept. How do we do that? They come up with all these different designs to actually walk you through it. So I think as far as an artistic thing, I like Prophecy the best as far as the playability, the interesting aspects of it. I think is there's so much that you can go through, and it's like a piece of art. You could look at it lots of different ways versus going through and just playing Pit of Heresy, which is a very static feeling
Yeah,
adventure.
I would say that as far as like aesthetics go, like Shattered Throne and Prophecy are equal to me. I can't speak to Pit because I like opened it and I was like, yep, nope, not doing that, and then closed it.
It's fine.
I was just
It's
like, I
fine.
was like, nah, not. I don't care that much. But like, because I like the aesthetics of, I like the aesthetics of the Dreaming City. Like, I really do. And so Shattered Throne, I like the mechanics of how they laid out the aesthetics in Shattered Throne. Like, I like how when you first go into Shattered Throne, you can see the entire thing. I think that's really cool. Like, you can see where you're
Right.
going.
Right.
And with Prophecy, I like kind of what you were just saying. It's like it's a completely blank slate. So like they were able to do like it's like the 9. They do their own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is very heavily loaded with a specific lesson. I
Meaning,
appreciate that so much. And that's just to in full disclosure, I haven't gone through Pit, so I don't know, and I haven't gone through what's the other one?
There's Pit.
Raid of the Spire, I think.
Oh, that's a raid. That's not a dungeon. Spire of the Stars.
Wasn't there a raid
Mm-mm.
attached to that? Okay.
Mm-mm. There's a raid
right.
on there's 3 raids attached to Leviathan.
They're
Spire of
all
Stars,
raids,
Eater
though?
of Worlds, and
Okay.
Leviathan. Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, they're all 6-man. You can technically do some of them with a smaller team, but
right.
you don't necessarily want to.
I mean, basically that's to say, Shattered Throne and Prophecy are really the only 2 in-game content in Destiny 2 that I've really paid much attention to from a player standpoint.
I also may have begged you to play this one.
Yeah, you also tricked me with the whole, hey, you're gonna be a Forerunner, which I think I'm about on par with you, which is very odd for me to say.
Well then.
No, not as skill.
No,
I mean, as progression in the title.
Right. I actually think you may be a little bit ahead of me on the progression on the title, but I think that we should wrap up. I think that's good.
I agree. I think. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Please.
You're good.
What shoutouts do you have, Green?
Okay. So, shout out to the company that makes the little standing pad that I am standing on at the moment called a Wurfboard. It's a working surfboard. This is great. I like this thing, and I'm going to shout them out because it's a great
Star Trek board.
It is so cool. And I'm going to show it again because I can now because we have face cams. And this thing is awesome. And it blows up. And it's a little bit of a foam air pad type thing, like as if you had a camping pad. And it's for while I'm standing at my desk because I like to do a standing desk type thing. And it's very nice. It makes it a lot easier on my knees and my joints because I am an old lady. Come see it in live stream if you don't believe me, because trust me, there's wrinkles here. Other shout outs.
Wurfboard.
Instead of a surfboard, it's a working surfboard. Clever. The other shout out I have is towards Twitter for not being a absolutely giant pile of dog doo-doo lately. So thank you for not being awful people as much as you have been. That is as much as a rebuke as it is a praise. So take that as you will. I am German. You can get over it. Blue?
I don't know. Shout out to Green because she like throws random things at me and it's like, hey, we should do this, and then it actually works, and I just should stop questioning her logic because it tends to do that. But no, like, I mean, it's always nice to have like an excuse to change stuff up, and I really think that between the new streaming setup that we have, and with the inclusion with Robots Radio, I'm really excited to see where we go, which is something that I need in 2020. I don't know how many other people might feel that way, but having something to be excited for, I'm not going to complain. Yeah. I think that's all I need. I don't really have anything other than that. But
I think as much as my rebuke was just more biting than normal, I think that our community has been a brighter point, I think, within the larger grouping of the Destiny community. And I know that is, you guys hear us talk about how you guys are just awesome a lot, and it's not pandering. It's legit. When my family hurts, I heard. And lately, it seems like you guys have been doing a little bit better. I know things are still pretty dark in a lot of places in the world, but you guys have done an amazing job of bouncing back and just figuring out who is the person that you want to kind of follow and see your voice with and support your voice or support them with your voice. And that is it's a lesson of 2020 that has been most difficult to learn at times. People have learned to block. People have learned to just step away. People have learned to take care of themselves mentally as well as physically. So it is a good on you for that. And I really do appreciate all of you guys who are in my Twitter feeds because I very specific pick people. I don't just, buddy, you guys are doing well. So anyway, Blue, take us out.
Yep. I just want to, as always, thank you for your time. Until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. Oh,
Bye.
dancing. I am halfway through season 2. And everyone needs to be shot in the face.
Okay.
No, dark season 2 is just just gets. I didn't think it could get worse, but then people kept doing stupid things, and it's just
yeah.
Then they introduced, so like normally in season 1 they were kind of regulated to like they had 3 areas that they could like hop between, and they fucked everything up with those 3 areas. And so then in season 2 they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we have time machines that allow you to kind of do whatever you want. And I'm like, oh god,
That's dumb.
well, there's still restrictions to how they can, but basically they don't have to go through a specific place. They can do it wherever they want. And it's like, just
Oh my goodness.
like with the episode that I
so
just got through.
Okay, so
go for it.
Haymaker's asking if they should watch or
Yes.
they should not
Okay. Here's the
watch.
thing: is it is probably I will tell you that I was really mad at Dancing Veru and Moshi Lama for making me start to watch it, because basically I started it, and in episode 1 they're like, we're going to talk about time travel, and I was like, just god damn it, just shoot me in the face, like just shoot me in the face. I can't stand like this show has done. So they set like they set rules to how like the time travel mechanics work inside the show, and they adhere to them very diligently. They fully embrace the idea of paradoxes, and they actually paradoxes are integral to the entire show, which like if you're going to do it, you kind of have to you have to go the full way.
Right.
It is really well done in addressing the paradoxes. They don't explain the paradoxes really well, which I was kind of a little upset with, but it's whatever. Like there's some paradoxes that would take 3 seasons to just explain the idea of, but like they talk about like the Bootstrap Paradox. They have the Grandfather Paradox. They have another one that they just had. But like there's a lot of them, and they all like as they get revealed, there's like, oh, okay, that actually makes like it all actually makes sense. It's infuriating because
sure,
there's like 1 or 2 good people in the show, and they keep getting shit on by everybody else. But yeah, it's like it's really good. If you do watch it, 100%. I don't know if they have it dubbed, but don't watch it in German and watch it with the subtitles. That's just I'll be honest, I prefer sub over dub anytime.
Sure.
But yeah, like it is, and season 3 is now out, I think, if I remember correctly, because I think that just happened. So, and season 3 is the full arc. So, like you have like it's not like a Battlestar Galactica situation where they're like, and we're canceled. it's like they knew going in that it was going to be the end. So my understanding is that at least as far as they are concerned, they wrap up for the most part everything. If you're looking for something to watch, I strongly recommend it. Strongly recommend it. Yeah, it's really good. I've enjoyed it. It's a world of Tolans. You're not wrong. Well, that's the thing. Is like the good characters are not. They're not necessarily treated bad. Well, the good character so far. It's not that he's treated badly. It's just that he. Yeah. I guess he is treated. I don't know. Like it's so painful to watch like his story because he's like the one person who is like he does stupid things. Don't get me wrong. They all are idiots at some point, but like his stupidity is because he's trying to help. Like he is actively trying to make things better, and everyone around him's just like nope. Fuck you. Like it's just like oh. But yes, it's
Good, huh?
yes. Like the good characters are being lied to and the bad characters are good characters who do bad things for the wrong reasons, which make them bad, which then make them do worse decisions because then they are embarrassed, and it's like oh god. And there's 4 generations.
This is still dark, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's so like I'm like I said, I'm halfway through season 2, and it's just like there's so much that happened, and it's well written. It's just well done. Like it just really is. I was very surprised because usually I started up what was the one that I started up the other day? Because I was like, oh, that looks cool. And I got through the first episode and I was like, this is kind of weird. And I started the second episode and I was like, nope. It's like one of the very few shows that I just like stopped and Warrior Nun. Terrible. I was like, I don't know what I was expecting because comic books like, but it just
That
is
just sounds
high
odd.
school. Well, it's like, so like the concept is one of those concepts that's like, oh, that's interesting. You start watching it and you're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. So you have to drive down to Texas in the morning.
Yeah, Warrior Nun. No, Warrior Nun is get out of here. Get out of here, Raz.
Why,
I don't
why
know.
does Raz
She's
like
giving
Warrior Nun?
me. I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah, no,
concept is
Haymaker,
solid, but
Haymaker,
the characters
exactly. Yeah, the execution was my problem with it. It's like it was like the first episode starts off amazing. Like it's like, all right, cool. We're gonna like, it's kind of a stupid idea, but sure, let's just go with it. And then
Sure.
like, I mean, it's like whatever. Okay, I can suspend disbelief, or I can suspend my disbelief for a TV show, sure. And I like, but then like the end of the episode, I'm like, where are we going with this? Like, this is going in a completely different direction. Like, it starts off like almost John Wick level, like badassery, and then at the end of it, it's like, all right, we're gonna go to Twilight now. I'm like, what? Where did we take the right degree turn that went from a decent show to a shit show? Like, this is like, what the hell is going on? And so I was like, all right, maybe I misunderstood something. So I started the second episode and it was like, oh my God. I'm like, nope, we're turning that off. We're going back to dark. I'm like, nope, pulling the ripcord on it. It was,
Well, John Wick to Twilight.
It was like action. It was an action that had like it was an interesting concept that like whatever. But it was like, all right, cool. We're fighting, they're fighting demonic forces or whatever, and they're like warrior nuns, which okay. And then, but at the end of it, it's like, I'm gonna steal a house, and I'm like, what? Like, what just happened? I watched all 10 episodes to give it a fair try.
I mean, that's fair. Like, what else are you gonna? I mean, you could choose to watch all of it. I felt that way
That's what I was
about The
getting
Good Place almost.
I haven't.
What?
I watched parts of The Good Place with Kashin and
The ending of The Good Place was actually really well done. They tie in the idea of what happens to you in heaven, like the concept of if you're actually in heaven and you can have whatever you want, and the idea of having everything. They do a really good job of explaining that you just turn into like this mindless nothing, right? Like we were talking about the balance of light and dark. They do a really good job of saying like, hey, once you are ready to go, you can leave, kind of thing.
The
and just
Order was
become
another one
nothing.
that was a shit show. Don't do that.
Which one?
The Order. Horrible.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, you're.
Julie's watching a show called Dear White People, and that's really interesting.
I've heard decent stuff about that one.
Yeah, she likes it so far.
I started Money Heist, and I couldn't get through it. Like, it's not bad. I just was like, I just couldn't get attached to any of the characters. What is the other show that oh my god, I'm going through it real quick because it's like.
Yeah, Black Flag. That's what she says too. There's also some darker themes in there though, from what I can tell. But for the most part, she's enjoying it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that
There's
we
another
watched.
one,
Hamilton.
and I'm like so annoyed that I can't think of it right now. Penny Dreadful. That was what it was.
Oh.
So Penny
yeah.
Dreadful. So there's a sequel thing to it. I can't remember what. But Penny Dreadful is the one that they have like all the major like gothic fantasy characters in it, and it's a pretty unique twist on it. But it's really cool because the portrayal that they have of each of the major characters is very, very distinct. Like, they have Dorian Gray in it, and he is like probably one of my favorite portrayals of Dorian Gray, because they actually, like, I think they nailed his like sociopathy. Like, they perfectly nailed it. What was it? Order. Yeah, Order is it's just high school bullshit is what it is. But yeah, Penny Dreadful was really good. What was the other one that I The Good Place? The Good Place is on Hulu, isn't it? Or is it on Netflix now? Did they move it over to Netflix?
I'm pretty sure it was on. I was pretty sure it's on Hulu. Another show that I thought was kind of funny. It's a little bit older than some of the ones you guys have mentioned. Is The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I've heard that it's pretty good. Altered Carbon.
It's
if you haven't watched Altered Carbon, you need to catch up on that, because that's
I know that one.
Freaking amazing. I have not watched the animated series that they put out just yet, but the seasons 1 and 2 are out. Witcher was good.
Oh, Witcher was really good. I want to go back and rewatch Witcher.
Stranger Things was good. You haven't
Love,
seen
Death,
Stranger
and Robots. I've heard good things about that one.
Oh, that one's amazing.
Cole likes that one.
That one is that the one that has yeah, season 2 of Altered Carbon is fucking amazing. Love, Death, and Robots, is that the one that's basically a collection of many different things?
It's a bunch of short stories, essentially, if I remember right.
I loved that one. That was very well done.
Lucifer's good. I like that one.
Yeah,
I like
Kashin
the
liked
graphic
that one.
novel a little better than the show.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was written by the same guy who did Constantine.
Pretty much.
Hannibal is a newer... No, not Hannibal. Damn it. There's another one that was...
That's another Hannibal one.
There's another Hannibal one that's like, it just came out, yeah. Lucifer's good. The Expanse is fucking amazing if you have not watched that. Season 4 is coming out Umbrella Academy season 2 of Umbrella Academy is coming out at the end of the month, which is very exciting.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a lot of anime too, good anime
You
on
guys
Netflix.
have so many more shows that you watch than I do. I watch comedians.
I turn comedians on
comedy.
during the workday because I can
can't-
just have
Oh.
it running in the background.
I don't know. Some comedians
Oh.
are way. It's interesting to watch them.
God, fuck. What is that show called? Lock and Key. That's another good one. That was it's similar-ish to Umbrella Academy. Like similar feeling, not as dark.
Orchid's back. Hey, Orchid, how did the trials thing go? How's it going? Everybody's talking about TV shows. Have you ever watched Hamilton?
Nope.
Blue?
I don't do musicals. I also am fully aware of the historical situation of Hamilton,
Sure.
which I
It is an
understand.
opera.
Yeah, well, that I mean, but I also understand they make light of it, right? It's like a parody-ish of it. Is that accurate?
No.
No. Is it
not-
a serious breakdown of it?
There's there are things that are embellished within the story, right, for dramatic effect, but it is not. They don't necessarily make light of anything that's going on. There's a real series of political conflicts that's going on with like Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson and
Right.
Madison and everything, and how they interact with Hamilton and Hamilton's whole thing that went down between him and the two sisters. The fact
Yeah.
that he had multiple women and his affair, they don't make light of any of that. That's all just still put out on the table. And they do a really cool rewind of an event during the wedding scene, because you get the wedding scene through the perspective of one sister, and then they rewind all the choreography and all of the sound and everything, and then they go back and do it again from the perspective of the other sister.
Oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
There's some really neat storytelling techniques that they used in it. It was so well done.
Oh, really,
Correct.
Haymaker? Oh no, that's sad. Like, okay, so did you watch the full season though, Haymaker? Or did
I like
you
the
just?
music of Westworld.
No, the music's fucking amazing.
So good. And I wish I could have been in the live theater, but this is as close as I'm going to get to the original cast, unfortunately. I do think they did some things for the movie version that they would not have been able to pull off in the theater version. There are moments that they were able to make stand out a bit more. You got a lot more from King George than you would have normally in the theater.
Yeah, so for like season 2 of Westworld, I had to force myself to get to see episode 4 or 5 before I finally was like, okay, this is because like I had the same exact thing with season 2 beginning. Like I was like, oh my god, not this again. But the last half of season 2 is it's just amazing. Like they up the ante so much in that last half. And season 3, I haven't seen anything of season 3 because I don't have HBO, so I'm just waiting for it to come out on DVD. But like, yeah, season 2 is the thing is it also it doubles down on exploring the idea of the level of consciousness that the androids have. Like it's really well done. Yes, yeah. Kiksuya was a fucking amazing episode. Yeah, like those I like yeah get I would say, and this is literally the same conversation I had with my wife, because she watched season 2 and then she was like, yeah, you need to watch it. And I watched like the first, like I said, we had watched it on DVD, watched the first disc, and I was like, I'm not watching this shit. Like I'm not doing because it felt like it was just the same over again. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it again. She's like, no, you have to watch, like, give it until, like, I think it was or episode 4 or 5. There was a particular episode, and it basically, like, as soon as the new stuff started with the Native American story arc, like when you find out about him, it's huge. But also the continuation of, oh fuck, what's her name? The matron, can't remember her name. Anyways, like her, so not Dolores. Dolores just I did not like Dolores in season 2. Like I did not like the direction they took with her. I understood what they were doing, but whatever. Maeve, yes, Maeve and the Native American character are amazing. Like their story arc explains so much about like the underlying psychology that they're kind of going for. It's really well done. Like it really is. Like and they also kind of explore not just Westworld, they also go into other areas of the park, and there's some really cool cross pollination, if you will, of what happens when androids meet themselves in a different capacity. And it's really there's a couple of really cool episodes. But yeah, at the end of season 2, which is obviously leading right into season 3, because season 3 is going to take place elsewhere. Like season 2 ends with basically the penultimate challenge for the androids to actually break free, and it's really, like, how they get there is really cool. But yeah, I would strongly say, like, force yourself through those first couple episodes because they are rough, but the end of the season definitely made up for it, in my opinion.
Very cool. Blue, I'm not going to be your mother, but we should probably go to bed so you can get up early to take Minion down to Texas. Mm-hmm.
It is only available on HBO unless you have this really cool thing called a public library that lets you rent DVDs for free.
You know, some of them are doing streaming services type stuff too.
I am not. Yeah, well, like ours, I don't know if ours is doing streaming. That'd be interesting.
Ours has audiobooks available that you can just
ours,
stream from the website.
Yep. Ours actually lets you, I love this. They let you check out the audiobook. It cracks me up. I'm like, why are we doing this? But like they yeah, they do have the audiobook, because I was like, what the hell? And I was looking at that, but yeah, it was, public libraries, man. You can get tons of stuff from them for free. And you really
could rent ukuleles, we could rent
like
all sorts of things. Like there's so many things you can rent from your own local library if you have a decent one.
This is true.
I actually donated a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards to a library back in Kansas. Night, Ed.
Yeah,
sleep well, hun.
Library, they built a new one just up the street right before the whole COVID insanity hit, and they have 3D printers that you can take a file and you can print. You can use their 3D printers. I was like, you can what now?
Yeah.
My wife was like, no. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think about the episodes when they drop. If you want to give them a cursory listen, just to let us know how the commercial breaks work. Also, let us know what your thoughts about the new layout are. as always. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Have a good
Have
night.
a good
Be
night.
safe.
Sleep well when you do.
What's sleep? Bye.